Yes, good evening. Welcome back to Football Heritage TV. Good morning where you are, or good afternoon, whatever it is. Welcome. Joined this afternoon or this evening. It's definitely this evening for me. I don't know why I had to check. It's 7:05 at night. By Danny from the Hotspur Hood. Dan, how are we doing, my friend? You well?
Yeah, long day, sweating off. Change of t-shirts about 3 or 4 times, same as most people, and same Spurs, different day. Apart from that,
Oh yeah,
good.
of course, yeah. Different t-shirts all day, same Spurs every day. We're going to be joined a little bit later by Bill and maybe a couple of other guests as we talk about all things football. Let's be honest, we always start with these plans of talking about all these different things, and then it ends up being about Tottenham Hotspur, doesn't it? So look, we've got lots to talk about tonight. We've got lots of stuff going on in the Euros, Tottenham Hotspur. Depending on who you want to listen to, some reports this week talking about Spurs trying to buy Isak with Richarlison going the other way. I thought that was one of my favourite links this week. I thought that was very funny. There are links saying that Tottenham Hotspur want to buy Ramsey from Aston Villa, but Aston Villa and Spurs are far apart on fees. Where have we heard that before? There's links with Tottenham to Onana of Everton, who's currently playing for Belgium in their midfield. There's links with Tottenham Hotspur with Conor Gallagher, Archie Gray of Leeds. There's links of players leaving, such as Højbjerg, such as Romero going to Madrid. We've got all of these links. Not a lot is happening. But Dan, I want to start tonight by asking you. There's two schools of thought when we look at a summer window. You get the people that are very much like, oh my God, why haven't we signed anyone? Come on, the window's been open for 4 minutes now. We've not signed anyone. And then you get the people going, well, no, relax. There's a tournament on. No one can sign. As long as Spurs get the right player through the door, we don't mind them taking time. Where are you at with timings and how quickly Tottenham, forget all football clubs, we're talking about Tottenham. Where are you with how we should be moving and what we should be putting into place early in the summer?
We should all have already had everything pre-planned on what we wanted, and then the list of players on who we wanted. Because we all know you don't necessarily get your first choice or even your second choice. That's why you have a list of 1 to 5 or whatever. However they decide to do it. I get the Euros are on. It's going to be a lot harder to make that last statement with the player and get him because he's still got to do his test and everything. But that's what the agents are for, isn't it? I would have thought that if Spurs was interested in, I don't know, Mickey Mouse, then his agent would sit there and he would say to his agent, right, I want this, 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 and this. Get me that. And when I come off, I will sign. But we was able to get Timo Werner just like that. So...
yeah, and it's a shock. Why isn't Timo Werner leading the line for Germany? I think you're right, Dan. I mean, look, I sit on the side of the fence of, I get it, right? There's a tournament going on. Let's be fair. Every other summer window, there is a tournament going on. Every other summer window, right? You've got either the World Cup or the Euros. Even in between that, you've got things like the Asian Cup and Copa Americas. And so... you're right. We've had this scouting team in place, and you would have thought there would have been some activity because, as far as I can see, a lot of the players that we seem to be linked with aren't actually at the Euros. When I look at the likes of Archie Gray, when I look at the likes of Ramsey, now I'm not sure. I don't know how real these are. These are just names that are being thrown out. You'll have some Spurs YouTubers who are telling you sensational news, the biggest news yet. We're signing. I don't buy into all that crap, right? But not everyone we're going to try and sign is at the Euros, are they? Surely we can't just be saying that everyone we're going to sign is currently playing for one of the countries in the Euros.
It all depends, obviously, on who we're looking at, yeah? Are we going to be looking at all these players in the Euros or whatever that are probably going to cost double as much when they come out? Or we should already have things working behind the books. Do we know what goes on behind the scenes? No. But how do you usually employ someone with a CV? And then what do you do at the CV? You look at the CV and you look at their history and you decide whether they match your job. The reason I use this as an example is because I look at Spurs CV and I look at history and I just think it's nothing new. Same It's the same way we seem to do it every time. So,
but are you
what
concerned?
faith can I
Dan?
have?
Are you concerned when you look at the names being linked to us? And I granted that the window's not shut yet. I get so bored of hearing that saying. We know the window's not shut, but when you look at all the names linked with us, arguably other than Eze, and somebody in the chat tell us differently. Dan, tell me if you've seen others other than Eze. I've not seen one link where I go, yeah, that's a good signing that automatically moves the dial, moves that needle, makes us better. Is that a worry, a concern for you?
It always is. I've had enough of hearing from players that we need to cover positions, and I don't want to cover positions. I want at least 3 players in there who get into that first 11. Okay, maybe one of them has to fight his way to get in there, but is more than good enough to walk into that first 11. So if we was have to take one player off and sub him for them, it wouldn't be a drop from A to X. It'd be round about the same thing, basically.
Yeah.
And I just want to see us make some serious signings that will have some serious effect on the pitch. And at the moment, as all I seem to see is that we keep looking at defenders. And all right, take me back to the start of last season. I'd have said defender was priority. I don't think of defender as priority now. We played with 4. We played with 2 at the back. We've got 1 cover there. I think we could use Ashley Phillips as cover for that one. If we can buy better for that, after we've gone and bought those 3 very good players, okay, I can accept that. But do I even see us getting 3 very good players in? I mean, last season was by chance. We did land on our feet with 2 transfers there, which weren't first choice. I want to see players come in that can do it now, that can make things change now. Not players that are going to get good in 2 or 3 seasons. Not players that are going to come on and just cover another player. I want to see at least 3 transfers now that can take us up a gear, basically.
Yeah. And
whether that's playing Angie's way or whatever way they want to do it. Sorry.
No. You're good. You're good. Look, I think the key thing for me here is, again, I'll reiterate, I appreciate that you can't get every deal done very early on. I'm not expecting Spurs to be sitting here right now with 4, 5, 6 new signings. But it just feels like it's always very slow with Tottenham. Like it just feels like you've had the scouting network and team in place for a year now. All right, you can say Lang and etc. started in November, October of last year. Fine. But they've been in situ long enough now to know how Ange Postecoglou plays, what the budget is going to be for this window. Inside the club, they would know this is the budget if you get Champions League. This is the budget if you don't. And surely all year round, their job, this is their full-time job, right? And what I mean by that, Dan, is I hear loads of people going, oh, the window's only just opened. And, oh, we're going to go and scout this player and we have to see if they're right for the club. This is their job all year round, to find players ready for the summer. So for me, I would expect us to at least be in talks. And when I say in talks, I mean, when they say, for example, Man United are currently in talks with Everton about Branthwaite. Man United are in talks with Bologna for Xerxes. Man United, to continue the theme, are in talks with PSG for Ugarte. Right? We just don't seem to be in talks with anyone for anything. And then they trot out that Archie Gray is on the list. Another young up-and-comer that the toxic positive fans will tell you, oh, really good. He's going to be brilliant in 3 years. And that's my concern, Dan, is that they've been in their jobs for a year now.
You don't have to wait until the transfer window to sign people.
Agreed.
You can sign people at any time, but they can only come to your club in those times. I mean, if I remember right, who was it done it last year? Was it Chelsea? Yeah, it was Chelsea who bought, I can't even pronounce the fella's name, so I won't even try it. They got him over from Germany. And they got him, he was injured most this season. I think he was meant to be their striker. I can't even.
Oh, you're talking about Nkunku, who came from PSG.
Nkunku, that's it.
Yeah.
I thought it was over from Germany he came from.
No, he was, either way. Yeah.
And they had him signed up literally 4 months before the window even signed. And then as soon as it opened, bang, there he was, even though he was very injured and injured all season. But the point I'm making is you don't have to wait to the transfer window to start checking up players, to start scouting players. I mean, how can you even go and scout a player when the bloody season's over, unless you're going to sit there and look at his YouTube? You'd expect these people to be doing their bloody job all season. Right, this is who we are after. A, B, C, D. Go for it. And already have it working well before the end of the season. Now what? If the club turns around and says, look, we don't want to do nothing now, we'll speak to you at the end of the season, they then just have to bide their time. But then as soon as the end of the season comes, they should literally be on them, already making the deals.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they could have already been in contact with the agents who would have been in contact with a player. We all know that goes on behind the enemy lines as such. Exactly him saying to he's like, right, I'm going to carry on my game. Agent, I want this, 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 and this. And preferably, I'd rather go there. But if I can't get my deal there and I can get my deal there, I quite happily go there. Agent, go and do your job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look, we're going to come to some names and talk about some actual names that are linked with Spurs and get people's thoughts. And look, again, it's a dangerous game to play. And it's why, I'll be honest, it's why every now and then I'll do a video about a player that we're linked with. But for me, we need to be kind of concrete linked with that club, if that makes sense, Dan. What I won't do is release a video every morning saying, Gazeta Finland have linked Spurs with this player and blah, blah, blah. Because we know that these things don't happen. For me, this is, John, we all know this for me is spot on. Of course, I mean, 16 years, 4 months and 8 managers sacked since Tottenham last won a trophy. This is simply not acceptable. I think we know this. My concern, you sent me an article, Dan, just for this show that we were reading. And it was basically an article from, I think was it the Spurs Web? The Spurs Web. And it was basically, the first line, right? The first line, this article by Jacob Barnes, big up to Jacob Barnes, says, bad news for Tottenham fans, hoping for a summer signing soon. And you know, if ever an article, like if ever a headline matched a football club, I feel like that's it, right? It's a bad news if you're a Spurs fan. It's always bad news. But the worrying thing for me is the article went on to talk about, and we've seen this being talked about by lots of people, by the way, not just the Spurs Web. We've seen this talked about by people like Michael Bridge from Sky Sports. We've seen this talked about by Fabrizio Romano, by Ornstein. Lots of talk, Dan, about Tottenham need to sell to buy, right? This whole don't expect a lot. We need to sell to buy, right? But in the flip side of all of these articles that these people write, etc., it talks about, well, Spurs are nowhere near FFP and PSR. Spurs are nowhere near any of that. We could go and spend 400-500 million and not be over FFP. So my question is, again, it would just be your opinion, right? I guess, unless you've got some solid facts from within the club. Why do we need to sell to buy if we are one of the most frugal clubs in the country from an FFP, PSR standpoint? Why do we need to sell first?
Well, technically, from what you read on everything, we could be. This is only going by what you read, only going by what you pick up, and that you can only go by what you see. Is that we could technically, along with Liverpool, be the biggest spending clubs in the world without even getting looked at.
Right.
Whereas pretty much every other big team out there and a lot of other teams, they're meant to be quite close to their borderline, or like some have done, gone over it as such. And it's just the same Spurs, different day. And that's all it is when it comes to it. We should be able to say, right, we know we've got excess crap to get rid of, which I think we've done all right so far at actually doing it. So credit where it's due. But we've still got some excess burnt wood to get rid of as well. Now, no matter how much Levy wants to get every penny as he can for him, if he's got half a business brain on him, which we all know he's probably one of the most intelligent when it comes to business, he's got to look at it from his angle and think, well, that club knows we are desperate to get rid of that player. Say, for instance, AC Milan with Chicken Royale. Right. We want 20 million for him.
Yeah.
AC Milan are going to sit there, even if they're willing to pay 20 million for him, unless he's the steal of the century, which sure as hell he ain't. They're going to sit there and say, well, no, we're going to pay 10 million for him because we know you're desperate to get rid of him. So then we're going to spend the rest of the next, 6 weeks or whatever, 4 weeks, whatever it is, bartering over an extra million on it, because they're going to know they can wait until the last day. And if he ain't sold by the last day, they could probably get him for 7 million, which is exactly what Levy does. So in that aspect, I think he's going to get a bit of a kick in the balls, basically, because he's going to get done to him this transfer window. What
he does
to others. Yeah. And if he's such a good on his tactics, which he, as a businessman, you cannot fault the man in any way, he should know this. And if we really need to make that money to spend a bit more, and we just need to get rid of this dead wood, we've got to take some kicks, just like Arsenal did, just like we did with Ndombele. Real Betis, we're meant to be asking for 15 to 18 million from what I've read again from Real Betis. They haven't got that sort of money to spend.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of other people understand.
That's a big outlay, isn't it? For a club like Real Betis. See, for a club in the Premier League, or a club like Tottenham Hotspur, we go, 18 million, don't we? 18 million, that's nothing. You know, Levy, pull that out of your pocket. For a club like Real Betis, 18 million for them is this is a big layout. This will be our biggest summer.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. No, agreed. But
even if you go to AC Milan now, AC Milan are not the formidable force that they were 20, 30 years ago. The Italian league isn't.
No. Well, listen, I think, Dan, the fact that AC Milan want Emerson Royal tells you everything you need to know about the fall of AC Milan.
Højbjerg as well now. They've added Højbjerg to a deal that they want to make.
Do you know what? I can almost see Højbjerg working in that sort of a country. I can.
100%.
Right? I can see him working that. I can see that would be a good squad addition for them. Emerson
Royal would do better out there. I think
possibly
he'd do better out there than here.
But if I was an AC Milan fan and I saw that 20 million of our budget was going on Emerson Royal, it baffles me. Look, let's look at some players, because look, we could sit and talk all day long about how Tottenham approach every single transfer window. Let's look at some rumours that are at the forefront, right? We could go on about 20, 30, 40 players. Let's look at the front runners, right? I want to start with Szymanski of Poland. This is a player at the moment. Lots of people are talking about. They're talking about that his club. I always get this mixed up. Fenerbahce, or is it Fenerbahce or Galatasaray? It's one Fenerbahce, I think.
I'm not sure.
Someone in the chat will tell me if I'm wrong. That's the beauty of YouTube, Dan. His club in Turkey are willing apparently to come down from his 22 million euro clause and let him leave for 17.5 million euros or something. So that works out to what, 14 million? I've seen him play. He looks okay. He looks a neat, tidy footballer. But again, Dan, it's another one for me that looks like it's cheap, cheerful, and doesn't really move. You're going to hear me say that a lot. Doesn't move that needle. Doesn't really do that.
No.
What are your thoughts on the Szymanski potential incoming?
I don't know much about the player, so I can't really rate the player, to be totally fair to him, yeah. But it's just another signing of deadwood for deadwood, basically. Why go and get rid of a backup player, if that's how you want to call it? I mean, it's a phrase that Alex has made me despise as well. So fair play, Alex.
Well, Mr. Box Office.
Yes.
Oh, big up Mr. Box Office.
Yeah, top man. He's made me despise the phrase as well. Backup player. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. What he meant, what he always goes for it now. I mean, he's hammered it into my head on enough shows. So I don't want to get rid of. I mean, then we might, if we're going to go and get deadwood players,
keep your current deadwood.
We might as well just keep the current lot. At least they know the team they're at.
Yeah.
There is just no point to it. Like I said, I want to see 3 good transfers. I'm not looking for quality as in world class or whatever, because that is not going to happen at Spurs. But I'm looking for 3 signings. Okay, Maddison didn't go right, yeah? But that was a player I'd been screaming for 2 years at Spurs. And I remember the first show I'd done with her, we both totally agreed on that. Maddison was a player we both wanted.
Very much so.
But after the first 10 games, it fell to crap for him.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a bad signing as such.
Yeah.
It just didn't
Agreed.
quite work out that season. Yeah. I want to see at least 3 signings of his rating of how good.
Yeah.
Like Eze, for me, very good player. But I'm sorry, I'm not getting as excited as everyone. Yes, I want him at Spurs big time. But for me, he's not.
Shouldn't that be the norm, Dan? Sorry to butt in. A player like Eze should just be a sign where you go, yeah, that makes sense. Not, oh my God. You know, this isn't signing Klinsmann when we got him. This isn't when we signed Ginola. This isn't the signing of Edgar Davids. He's a very good player. I really want him, by the way. So I'm not saying I don't want him. Really want him.
He's better than what we've got.
Yeah, that should be the standard. Every window that we go, that's what we sign. We sign Eze levels.
It should be literally with how a lot of the fan base look on it. I know everybody looks at it different, but a very high percentage that I see preach us off as this big, massive club and everything. The club preaches off as a big, massive club. We're ranked in the top 10 in the world sort of thing, which is purely there for money, nothing to do with football. If it was football, we'd barely be in the top 40. And if we are this big, massive club with this big, massive FFP that we can do and all the money coming in and all the money we do see coming into the club, for me, Eze should be a signing where I say, fair play, Levy, nice one. Get the next one in.
Yeah, damn right.
Not that I sit here and literally all of a sudden pass out because I've just gone and signed like Figo or Rao or something like that. It should be well done, Levy. Done your job, mate. Very good player there. Happy with that one. Where's my next one? Because we need another 3 at least.
But Dan, isn't that a sign of where? For me, this is a sign of what the club have done to us as a fan base. Yes. I feel like. Look, I'm not going to use derogatory terms, but I feel like at Spurs, you're either put into one of 2 categories. I feel like there's no middle ground. I feel like you're either chucked into the happy clapper, toxic positive side, or like me, I'm chucked into the negative, you're a terrible fan side of things. Yeah. Right, where sometimes it probably lives in the middle. But I feel like you're bang on, by the way. I can't agree with you more on that. It feels like the club have made us now think that when we do get a good signing in, like a Van der Ven, that should be normal. Yeah? A player like Van der Ven, who was 42 million euros or whatever it was, 45 million euros, 22 years of age at the time, coming in from Germany of that quality, that should be the norm. That shouldn't be us going, oh my God, look what we scouted. And unfortunately, that's the difference between us and the big 3 clubs above us, is we look at those signings and go, bloody hell, what a signing. Those clubs look at those signings and go, yeah, he's good. Next. Yeah. Where's the next? And
they don't get excited about it. They get like, oh yeah, tidy player in the team. I'm happy with that one. Now I want my next 2 to make my 11 better because I'm a so-called top 6 club, top 10 in the world, whatever else than that. I expect that. And people say you shouldn't expect things like that. Well, with the amount of money that Spurs pull in, the amount of money that we pay at Spurs for those who actually go and everything else, and the amount of money that it makes off everything else and keeps bigging itself up about its FFP and that, can anyone really realistically sit there and say they're happy with a £10 million signing that is just basically another bit of dead wood, that is nothing better than what we've got? Well, but people are, because we are too accepting. We are too accepting at Spurs because we've been dragged down to the bottom levels. We've won nothing for 24 years. We've barely made any good. The good signings over 24 years you could probably label on both hands. And we've just got so accepting at Spurs with crap now that we're just pretty much happy when we sign bang average and get excited over it. Well, that's how I see it.
Before we go back to Szymanski, this is an interesting one. A big up Paul. Always like hearing Paul's thoughts. Even I think Paul, we disagree quite a lot, Paul, but we just have a good football chat. Just before I come to this comment, I think one of the key things for me, Dan, is we talk a lot about how do we get better. We talk a lot about a plan and a project and a process And if you give a manager time, and if you give the manager the players he wants, then we will win things. But in the same breath, those very same fans that come out with all those lovely, lovely positive things will then back average signings. Then when those signings don't work out, they're the first ones to go, oh, well, the manager didn't get what he wanted. And this is the problem for me. I think people are so, I genuinely believe this, Dan. I think a lot of people, not all people, are so worried about saying something against Tottenham that they get so caught up in being positive about these poor signings. Then when it doesn't work, it's, but you've got to give him time because he wasn't given what he wanted. Yeah. I feel like that they're living in this lane where they're safe, where you can veer one side to the other. And because of that, what we're seeing is a lot of deadwood coming in, year out. And that goes on to this comment, Dan. I agree completely. For me, rather than signing, and I know you've not said this as many words, Paul, but rather than signing 16, 17 million pound players that could be good in the future, why don't we then, instead of that, say, right, we've got a youth team that's just beaten everybody and anybody. Why don't we let those players be our could be good for the future? Exactly. And spend our transfer kitty on players that are good now. Do you know what I mean? Like Szymanski. Look, last year played Fenerbahce, year before Feyenoord, year before that was at Dynamo Moscow. Looks neat, looks tidy. But when a club is willing to let a player go for less than his release clause, this has all the hallmarks to me of a player that will come in. We will have fans screaming and shouting that this is the best footballer Poland have ever produced, right? Mm-hmm. And just wait and see. But he's 25. And this screams to me of a player in 2 years, Dan, that we'll be having the same conversations that we're having now about Ndombele, Lo Celso, Højbjerg, Basuma, Bentancur, where it's like, well, did they really do anything? Why has it not worked?
Look, I hate to keep using the same one as an example. And I've had a few people say, why don't you just let that one go and get on with it? It's happened. No, I won't let that one go. Not at all.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use a phrase, like, heard it on the radio and I've now stolen it for myself big time because I absolutely loved it. I think you heard it the other day. Now, when we went and got Werner, I could see the point on why we got Werner. Weren't happy with it, but I could see why. He's a poor man's son and he done. But then by the end, like, people were bigging him up big time. There was others saying not a chance. And then there was me on the fence, sort of like, I get why we've got him, but I don't really want him, but I get it for the 6 months. Mm-hmm. And then I saw, I'd say about 3/4 of the first Spurs fan base turn by the end of the season, get this crap out of this club. Next thing you know, Ange goes and signs him because Ange chooses all these transfers, so he says, which we all know BS at the end of it as well. But he shot himself in the foot with that one. All of a sudden, oh yeah, but Ange wants him, so Ange can see it work. 50% of them turn again because Ange said so. Well, the saying that I've got, and I've stolen it for myself, is you can stick lipstick on a pig, but it's still a bloody pig.
Yeah.
And
I love that saying.
All of a sudden, Timo Werner's this one that's going to take us places and that because Ange said so. Well, sorry. No. Not unless some freak of nature thing happens to him at night where he mutates or whatever. He's not going to go and score 15 goals in a season for us.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, look, I want to talk about another player that's heavily linked, and this one is Eze. And this is we touched on it just now. This is a player that I think a lot of the Spurs fan base do want to see come in. It's the name that excites people the most. I'll be honest, it excites me the most from what we've been told, right? That's where we're at as a football club. By the way, Kenny FCB, first time you've been back in a long time. I've only just come back myself the last week, so that's why, my friend. But big up to you. Hope you're well. We'll talk about your team in a minute because your team is Bayern Munich are starting to make signings and big signings as well. Bayern Munich don't look like they're messing about, but we'll come back to that. Lots of people in the chat talking about Eze. Lots of people are saying, Dan, that now Arsenal, again, everything is the word apparently, right? Everything is rumour. Right? Apparently, Arsenal are joining the race for him. if they're joining the race, we're on the 10-meter line. They're probably on the 90-meter line, knowing how Levy works. Look, if hypothetical world, if Tottenham and Arsenal were in for you, right? You're not a Spurs fan now, so take your Spurs hat off.
No. I already
Where
know
are you
what's
going?
coming.
If Tottenham and Arsenal are both in talks with Eberechi Eze, right? And let's just assume that Levy's going to whack down that £50 million down payment. I'll just have a little chuckle to myself, right?
Same wages.
Same wages. Where do you go? Do you go to Arsenal, where they are, or do you go to Tottenham Hotspur? Let me know in the chat as well, people.
This is where, as a player, I sit back and I have a look at my choices. I think if I want to go to a club that is already going places, or go to a club that says it can go places,
yeah,
I'm definitely going to go Arsenal. But looking on it from another perspective, a serious one at that, I can also see a player looking at that and thinking, if I go into Arsenal, I reckon I can get in that team, but I'm going to be pushing. I'm going to be fighting, Trossard and not Gabriel, their other Martinelli on the left, because he does play left sometimes. If I go in the middle, I'm fighting Odegaard, and that's their captain. It's going to be a fight and a half. If I go Tottenham, I walk into that team and barely have to put any effort on to really get in that team because it is playing that poor. And within 2 years, 2 good seasons, I can get another massive club come and get me and use it as a stepping stone. So for me, this one depends on the attitude the player's got.
Yeah,
I would personally say, forgetting the Spurs and Arsenal and everything out of it, I would say Spurs would actually be his better option for a long term on his career. Because he could just step into Spurs, step into that team, and as long as he gets no injuries, he would stand out above pretty much everyone else we got for 2 seasons. Then someone else would come in and say, we're having him. There's the stepping stone. And he would definitely get the games and everything. Whereas if he goes Arsenal, he's going to have to fight. I'm not saying he won't get no games, but he's going to have to fight tooth and nail with what they've already got. So I think it depends what he wants. If he wants it all now and wants to be in a club that can win things, that quite possibly will win things, and wants to be part of that club, that squad, he's going to go Arsenal. But if he wants to go to a team that he's going to possibly get in the top 4, fight for the top 4, and maybe get into a 3rd round of a cup if they're lucky, but wants to get consistent games through and through, I'd say Spurs is actually his better option. But all depending on the player's mentality, what sort of person he is.
But let me flip that on his head so that we don't agree on everything. If I'm Eze, I'm looking at Tottenham and Arsenal right now and going, all right, wherever I go, yeah, I mean, look, it's a squad game. It doesn't matter what we say, it is a squad game now. Like Arsenal next season are going to have, 38 league games. They're not going to go out in both rounds of the Cups like Spurs did. They're going to be in the Champions League player. They'll get out of a group. They're good enough to get out of a group. So they're going to play 7, 8, 9, 10 games minimum in the Champions League. So they're going to be playing 55, 60 games in the season. If I'm Eze and Arsenal come in for me now and I'm looking at, God, they've got Odegaard, who I can link up with. God, they've got Declan Rice, Partey, who I can link up with, a young Saka. I think they'll probably get a centre forward as well. I hate saying this as a Spurs fan, but I'm looking at that Arsenal journey and going, this is a club that actually knows where it's going and is building towards trying to beat Man City, right?
And it's not far from it either.
Look, I think what they lack, and look, there's Arsenal fans in the chat. I don't know if they'll agree with me. I think Arsenal are a very good football team, but I think what they lack is just the depth of quality that Man City have. Arsenal have got some good backups, but they're not at the level where they can go, Haaland's injured for 2 months. Alvarez can go and play up front for a couple of months. They're not at the level where they go, Ruben Diaz is out injured. Don't worry, Akanji will slot in there.
They've got that in 1 or 2 positions. They haven't got it over a squad sort of thing. And that is why City walk it in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And that for me is the difference. Now, it doesn't matter whether that comes down to being a 1 or 2 point gap in the league or a 10-point gap. That for me is the difference over a season, is that they've got that ability. Now, if I'm Eze, I'm looking and going, I fancy myself to go and start in that Arsenal 11. If I'm Eze, I think he's something different. I think they've got a very well. Look, I'm not going to put down Arsenal. I think it would be really difficult to put down a team that for the last 2 years have been very good. It's great for banter, Dan, for us to sit here and go, oh, they
say it straight. Say it how it is. They're a quality team. They're a quality team. They're not just good. They are quality. Like it or lump it. That's football. If you're good, you're good. You're bad, you're bad.
You know me, mate. I'm not going to hold back. They're a top team, right? That need to go to the next level. For me, I think if they start looking at players of that ilk, they then become a real worry for me, because then what they're doing is they're giving themselves multiple options in that area. Now you've now got Saka, Martinelli, Trossard, Eze. They're now starting to do what Man City have done for years, where Man City have got Foden, Grealish, Bernardo Silva, De Bruyne. You know, they're starting to get that 3 or 4 players now that you can rotate and not worry about what's the best 11, but right, what do we play Saturday knowing that we've got Bayern Munich Wednesday night? Do you know what I mean? That for me is why I think it would go there. All of this though, Dan, I don't know what you think. I think would be null and void. If Arsenal are in for the race, you get the feeling that Arsenal would turn around and go, that's what you want for your down payment. That's my worry at the end of the day of all of this, which brings me back to what are we doing? What are we doing? We're not buying better players than when we were at White Hart Lane. So what are we doing?
That's the problem whenever it comes. Okay, Spurs are looking at the player. They're going to put in a bid for him. Chances are he's going to put in Levy and make his life hard, because he won't just give him a cheeky bid. He'll give him such a pathetic bid that it'll be an insult and they don't want to talk to him again, like it has happened to him with a few clubs now. And anyone, when I ever see it, that Spurs are after Eze, next thing you know, like, okay, 3 weeks ago, me and Brian sat on a show and said, do you know what? I could see that happening. This was before it was 50 million up front and everything.
Yeah.
Levy can usually get a deal. And no, they wouldn't want to sell him, but if we hit that release clause, they haven't got a say in the matter, so it's neither here nor there. But as soon as you hear another club is interested of the same caliber or supposed same caliber or higher, you sit there and you just think, well, that's that one out the window then. And then is where you start maybe clutching at straws like I did of it depends on the player's mentality. It depends what he wanted to do. Like just over a year ago.
Please don't want to be a winner. Come and join Spurs. Don't want to win anything.
Like when we had this talk over Jamie Maddison. Why would he go Spurs over Newcastle? But that one was a totally different story. My argument with that, it was London. London is more attractive than up north. And we've got, even you can use the stadium when you're using things like that. And his wife wanted to come to London. And lo and behold, why did he actually sign for Spurs? It was pretty much purely down to because his wife wanted to come to London. He made that quite clear. Okay, it worked on that one. But now you're talking with a boy that wants to stay in London, with 2 London clubs there. You can't really say either of them are winners yet, but one of them is looking extremely, extremely close to just making
one of them looks
transfers.
like they want to win, Dan.
Yes.
Right. One of them is building blocks to win. The other is building blocks so that we're just going to have loads and loads of deadwood again in 3 or 4 years that we need to move out, and then people will say, "Oh, give it time. We need to sell the deadwood." Look, Arsenal are on a great trajectory, whether we like them or not. Yeah, facts are facts. Now,
can't
counter to
both
this
at the same time? Do you have to sell then buy it, or do you have to buy it then sell, or can't you actually do them when you've got 140 million sitting there? You know you're going to get a kick in the teeth for those players anyway. So why don't you just go get what you want, and with your other employees, because I'm sure there's more than one in there that just does the job.
Yeah.
Look, you just get rid of that deadwood. I don't care what you get, just get rid of it. Yeah. Get as much as you can for it. Just get rid of it. We know we ain't going to get much for it because everyone knows we want them gone. You get rid of that crap. Right. You lot, go and get me these players. And then money we make off the deadwood, whatever, fine. Then we go for our okay or our cover player. Yeah. But if we've got 140 million sitting there, if we have. I read 120, I read 160, so I'll say 140,
Yeah.
Technically, if we've got that sitting there, we could literally just go, bang, there's Eze, there's Tony. But we don't, and we won't. And we try to make a deal out of everything. So,
do you know the thing for me, Dan?
Saying that we got 140 million there is, to me, is just like, meh, and...
Yeah, I always read and hear from people that we've got X amount to spend and this is what we're going to spend in this window and blah, blah, blah. First of all, that worries me greatly because everyone preached at us negative fans. I just put myself in that bracket now. Everyone preached at us for years that, the reason we're not spending now is we're building the stadium. And when we got the stadium, we'll have the money to go and compete. And we do spend money. I think you've heard me maybe say this before, Dan. I'm never a fan that has a go at Daniel Levy for not spending. We spend, but it always seems to be quantity over quality. And the problem that we have is I think this is allowed by everybody. And what I mean by that is if cast your mind back to this time last year, right? So Ange Postecoglou had just taken over. I think this time last year he'd been in the Spurs hot seat for maybe 3 weeks, right? 4 weeks, something like that. And straight away, you get a huge portion of Spurs fans that have seen these players fail over and over and over again with multiple managers, winning managers like Jose and Conte, managers like Poch. You then get the Spurs fans that suddenly become, well, hang on, under this manager, this player's now going to become good. And the number of players we do this with, Dan, is frightening, right? Last summer, the reason I said focus back to last summer was we did shows about, well, straight away, Ndombele and Lo Celso got to get out the door. And you had fans going, oh, no, hang on. If anyone can get the best out of Ndombele, it's Postecoglou. Oh, this year, he'll love Lo Celso. He'll get the best out of Lo Celso. This year, between them, have had about 6 starts for the football club. And you sit there and you think, we do that every year with footballers that are Deadwood. Every year but this manager will get the best out of them. They're going to come good. The bigger clubs, they don't sit around and wait for miracles to happen.
They say you've been crap, get out.
Yeah, this has not worked. You've been here a year or two. This has not worked. See you later. Or they at least try and get them out the door. But I can't sum this up more before we talk about the next player after I say, I can't sum this up more than that post I put out the other day, Dan. I sent this to you on WhatsApp as well. When I named the 18 footballers, right, that Spurs had signed since, I'll put it up again. There it is. These are the 18 forwards, strikers and wide players that Spurs have signed since Sun, right? And the comments I got off of that post, Dan, again, proved to me why Tottenham Hotspur fan base is so divided. So divided. You've got those that look at that list and go, that is awful, right? That is why we will never be a top club, because we've sat there and decided that for the last 18 signings in the forward areas, this is what's going to move that needle. I then get other fans, Dan, coming back going, oh, you've been harsh. I thought Llorente had a couple of great games in the Champions League run into the final. You've been harsh. I thought that Perisic did some nice things for a few games on the left. And I sit there and I think to myself, what are we doing here, Dan? Because even when there's evidence, and this isn't my opinion or your opinion, Dan. This here is fact, right? This is factual information. And we've still got people that will defend it. We've still got people that will go, yeah, but, we're not City, we're not Liverpool, we're not Arsenal. No, we're not. But West Ham have managed to get Paqueta, Bowen and Kudus. Right? They've managed to get those. Palace have managed to sign Eze and Elise in that time. Right? Wolves have managed to get Pedro Neto in that time. I could go on and on and on. This, for me, is the worry, Dan, is that whatever we buy, fans will just find a way. Not all fans. Everyone knows what I mean. Fans will find a way, Dan, to support the average nature of what we do.
To accept it. We're too accepting. Simple as that. We're too accepting. In our own way, I think Tottenham as a club and Tottenham as, I'll say, a majority of supporters, I think the word you're looking for is nice. They're too nice.
Yeah, very
They're
nice.
too bloody nice. Oh, don't worry. He's only had a bad 15 games on the trot. He might come good for the next two. No, I judge a player over a match. I judge him by 90 minutes. My primary use I use here is Johnson. Did he have a good season? Did he help? Yeah. But he had okay moments. But in his games, he turned up for 5 minutes, maybe got a little goal or an assist, and then disappeared. Yeah, he got better towards the end of the season because he started turning up for 10 minutes instead of 5 minutes. Out of all those games he played, I can name possibly 2 games where you saw him pretty solid in that game for more than 70 minutes. I'd like someone to give me more than 2 because it didn't happen. And you started seeing a bit better because he started playing for 10 minutes. Now, just because he's done something for 10 minutes, I'm not going to give him man of the match. When there's been others on the pitch that are doing better. Yeah, but Johnson got the goal. I don't care who scored the goal in that aspect, yeah. If his 80 minutes have been crap and he's just kicked in a goal that me and you could put in the back of the net because it was literally sitting on the bloody ball line anyway, I'm not going to praise him for it. And then over a season, I'm not going to praise a player who's had 3 quarters poor and maybe quarter good. I'm going to say he's had a bad season. But too many people, again, just want to be too nice. Oh, yeah, but he can get Ndombele working. I think he can. Yeah, well, the past 3 managers wanted him out on loan, all of them.
Yeah.
He can get Lo Celso working. Yeah, but he's got kneecaps like ankles and he's always injured all the time. Yeah, but if we get new trainers and new in that, like, that might not happen. Stop making excuses and just accept that the majority of what we have bought has been absolute crap. And out of the ones you put there, there's about 3 on there that I would have said was okay.
Yeah.
One of them,
okay.
Perisic, I personally thought was a very good buy. We just didn't play him in his bloody position.
I agree.
Same sort of problem we have at the
moment. But this can boil down to that, Dan. It can boil down to it. Whether I'm not saying all those players are terrible footballers, but those players are bought with no plan, no real idea of what we're going to do with them. Just quickly before we move on, right? I just want to explain, because this is what I got a lot of in my comments as well, is people like Billy that didn't clearly understand what I've put up on that screen, right? He said, you've chosen the worst players. Where is Van de Ven, Vicario, Son, and Doggy? I feel like someone like Billy has really not understood the point of that message. Let me reiterate. I've not chosen the worst players. They are the 18 forwards that Tottenham have signed since we signed Son. So the point of this was to put up and show, since the last proper quality forward we signed, Son, those were the forwards we signed. Van de Ven is not a forward. Vicario is not a forward. Udogie is not a forward. And Son was the benchmark for that topic. I'm sorry that I've had to explain that again. And if that sounds belittling, but what I hate is I've had loads of these, Dan, where people have gone, oh, you've just picked bad players. No, that's fact. They're the 18 forwards that we've signed.
Okay, and if you really wanted to go down on it harder than that, let's just name all the players we've bought over the past 10 years, and then let's just weigh it up on a set of scales that starts doing that, yeah? So if you want to be really technical about it, yeah? Okay, we've made some good signings over the years, yeah?
Mate, okay. Absolutely.
But the bad ones totally outweigh it. The bad ones totally out. When you go and get a player like, one I feel sorry for, Sardado. He was doing brilliant in Italy. He was a good buyer. And then we go and chuck him on a 1-man up front when he's used to playing 2-man up front.
No plan again.
Perisic, he played 1 season as wing-back at Inter, and that was purely for cover, and also the way that Conte wanted it played. 1 season. And for all his career at Bayern Munich, at Inter, 9 times out of 10, always for Croatia, always up on the left wing to get the ball up there. He's not a fast runner, but he was getting the ball up to him with a direct pass because he can cross as good as anybody.
Yeah.
And he even proved that from a left wing back position. And again, to me, that was another very, very good player. Even though he was getting on a bit, that we just totally wasted for what he was actually good at. Exactly the same as what we are doing with Udogie, with Porro. And then you can name other players in there if you want. Basuma, I think he's significantly better than he shows, but keep trying to play him as a box-to-box that can defend as good as attack. You're not going to get it because he can't defend that well. For me, Kulusevski, play him as an attacking midfield central if you want to see the most out of him. That's what they did in Italy with him, and that's when they got the most. No, he hasn't done himself no favours, but I think there's worse players than that we need to get rid of. But keep sticking the left footer to cross who you want to cross the ball from the right-hand side. Yep. It's just no different to England, the bloody Trippier.
Yeah. No, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Look, let's get some comments just generally. I haven't shown as much love as I normally do to the chat. By the way, big up, please smash that like button if you haven't already. It really does help. I've not asked yet in the show, so please do. And we've had no new subscribers so far in this show. So come on, show some love, smash that subscribe button and get over to the Hotspur Hood and subscribe to Dan. If somebody would be so kind to put Dan's link in the chat, that would be amazing. Please do that. Just quickly, Lee Smith. I think you're missing the point. The point of Bale being in that list was not to knock him. I think again, this point is going over everyone's head, Dan. It was just a list of every forward we've signed since Son. Yeah, whether they were good or not, it was that list. And my point was, Lee, is that overall, that 18-man list was crap, right? When we got Bale back on loan, Bale, it wasn't the Bale we knew. It was an injured Gareth Bale that had aged. I loved him.
Still scored 15 odd goals.
Yeah. I'm not doubting that. But do you know what I mean? We brought back a player that wasn't fit for the first 3 months he was here. My point is, Lee, and listen, I love Bale. Bale's been one of the greatest players at this club for the last 20 years, 30 years, whatever. But my point was, we'll go and get that because it's a loan, right? My point is, in that time, we've had 18 signings. That's 2 per window, 2 forwards per window per summer for 9 years. And we've not managed to go and get someone that's been long-term, been successful, scores goals and assists. We've not found another Son. Kane and Son held this together, and one of them was through the youth team. That was my point, Lee.
Have we actually found one that could score 15 goals in the season?
That's the point, isn't it? That's absolutely the point, Dan. My point is that not one of those players there managed to hold down a place in the team alongside Kane and Son and really provide. And again, I'll show the list again. Look, all of them have kind of taken turns on being that third wheel with Kane and Son at some point, right? They've all taken turns, but none of them have been able to go, right, that's my position. That's me. That's me. I'm good enough. I'm going to be here for years and years and years. I'm going to score goals regularly. There are a lot of players that have come and gone. Dan Zumas and Bergwijns and G's and Kudus. Solomon, I think, will come and go. Brian Hill, pointless. Valise has come in, no real plan. Janssen was dreadful. Llorente came in on the bench all the time. Mora, you know what I mean? Jack Clark never got any minutes. Vinicius. It's just a poor collective. That was the whole point of me putting that up. It wasn't to knock Gareth Bale. It wasn't to say we haven't signed any good. Because most of the good players we do sign, Dan, tend to be in other areas of the pitch other than forwards. If you look what we've bought lately, Van der Ven, Romero, at the moment, it seems like we can get some good defenders, but we can't do it in the forward areas. We can't seem to match that caliber up there. And you know why? Those players up there, they cost money.
Plus, the other problem is we've got, it's the same as every other club, A striker at the moment is few and far between all around the world. Go back 10, 15 years, there was so many strikers out there. There was world-class strikers out there, and there was very, very good strikers out there. And you could get a good striker. Could you get a defender, though? No, because they were like gold dust. Now the whole system's turned. You can go out there and get good defenders here, there, and everywhere. There's plenty of them out there to get bought. Good defenders, and some very good defenders. But strikers are few and far between. Whereas wingers or inverted, whatever you want to use them as, there's still plenty of them enough about to go and get some. And we go and sign a Brennan Johnson and then go and loan the Timo Werner. For me, Johnson, just for his price and everything, He didn't do it for me. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Look, let's talk about another player. Jonathan David is another player this week that's been heavily linked, not just to Tottenham, to other clubs as well. Feels like this is a player, Dan, that for the last 4 years has been linked all across Europe. Got a decent goal scoring record. He's got a good goal scoring record. I always have question marks. Why has no one picked him up till this point? You know, my question mark is why. But what do you think of him as a player? Have you seen him? Do you think he'd be a good addition to Tottenham's forward line?
I've seen him a couple of times. Not not many. I've seen him a couple of times, and then obviously I've seen my YouTube bits on him and that. But me and you can go on YouTube and make Eric Dyer look good. And
hang on, I'm not a miracle worker.
No, you just showed a game you played against Arsenal and everyone will love him.
Yeah, true.
And with that, again, if he was already this false, you would have expected usually one of the big clubs to go for him. But the big clubs don't always spot him. They don't. And would it be worth coming to Spurs? Is he better than what we've got? It's not particularly hard. I think Son's on the way out. I think we're better off putting him on the left, if anywhere now. Well, I was one of the first ones who said stick him down the middle. He's lost it on the left, but no, even though he's lost his yard or two of pace. Richarlison, he's not going to get you 15, 20 goals a year. And Johnson, he's going to be lucky if he sees 10 a year. Kulusevski, same as him.
Yeah.
Is David good enough? No. Is David good enough to come to us and play central and get 15 goals? Possibly. I know anything's possible. It's a bit of a cheap answer, really. But possibly, I think he could. I don't think he's no worse than what we've actually got up there. I think he's better than what we've got up there.
Sorry, Dan, I was just... Who has done that? What is wrong with people? Too much time. Look, I look at someone like Jonathan David, and I look at him and I think that's 10 to 15 goals a season, if I'm honest, in the Premier League. Again, forgive me, Dan, you probably hate me for saying this again. Does it move the dial? Does it move that needle towards where we are to competing? And for me, the answer is a massive no. I just feel it would be another player that comes in. We'll talk about him for years, saying, well, give him a year, give him 2 years, it's his third year. I don't know. It just something doesn't feel, it doesn't excite me in the slightest. I don't know if that is the easiest way I can put it.
Depending on his style of play, if he comes in and he can score 15 goals, he can take us up a place.
Yeah.
Now, taking us up a place would actually take us to fourth place. I mean, I don't want to go into this one too much because I don't know what you want to refer to, but for me, we should have had fourth place easy. Because for me, Aston Villa were nothing special. And we all knew Chelsea were out of the situation, but then started to get very good. Man U weren't in it, but still managed to win a cup. And Newcastle were pretty much destroyed with their injuries. If it weren't for such a stuck-up manager, so stuck in his own ways, so naive it looks at times and that, making some very bad decisions, also some good ones. For me, it's Angie's fault why we did not get fourth place, because he did not adapt when he had to adapt.
I agree.
Now, this is another point I'll make with you, yeah? That team we've got, it ain't half bad. It really ain't. If you play that, I say this all the time with things, if you go and get a bang average team and play them in the right positions, to the right technique, to their style, and get a formation for that team that works for every player, you'll make an average team look good. But you can have a world-class team. Play them in the wrong formation, play them in the wrong positions, or play them in the right position, telling them to do the wrong things. You'll make that world-class team look bang average. That team we have got is screaming for Conte, or Conte style, a 5-3-2, or a 3-5-2. Or me personally, I'd play a 5-2-2-1. Because I'd have the two in the middle, and then I'd have my two number 10s, one as a shadow, one as a 10, doing their thing. That team has got wing backs screaming all over it. We got two of the best wing backs in the Premiership on there. We got probably the second or third best left wing back in the Premiership there. And we use them as inverted. And our whole style does not suit the players, not the players that are at the team. If he really wants to make that work, he's going to have to kick out about 5 players of that first team.
I was thinking about you yesterday, Dan. The reason I was thinking about you, don't worry, nothing bad. The reason I was thinking about you is we talk about this a lot. And look, hats off to you. You said this before I did last season. And the more I thought about it, I would love to see Spurs play wing backs with this formation purely because Porro and Udogie scream brilliant wing backs. And when we say scream brilliant wing backs, we're not pretending they're wing backs. They played there for their previous clubs. Like, they are wing backs.
They're not
the
right
worry,
backs.
and the reason why I thought of you is because I thought, I was tinkering around yesterday. I was just drawing a bit on a pad and I was like, can we do this? Can we do that? And then I realized that, look, the reason we're never, ever going to do this, the reason he's never going to try that, one, I don't think he's got that flexibility. But the other reason, Dan, is we've signed about 5 or 6 wide forwards in this setup. We've got so many wide forwards that have nowhere to be in a wing-back system. And this is the problem for me, why I don't think he would ever do it. For example, if we were going to, I'm just going to pick a team at random here, right? If we were going to play Vicario in goal, Van der Ven, Dragusin, Romero, Porro right wing back, Udogie left wing back, I'm just randomly, Basuma and Bentancur in midfield, Maddison in the 10, Son and a striker, another Jonathan David up front, right? Now, what you've done immediately is taken away the need for Brennan Johnson, Timo Werner, Solomon, Hill. I'm missing some wide men. Why am I missing wide men?
Werner.
Werner, Kulu. Straight away now, you've got loads of players there that don't fit anywhere in that formation, which is why I don't think he'd ever try it. But that's why I don't understand. Every window, we keep seeming to buy more and more average wingers. It feels like it's a trend that what we've got to do every window is buy a couple of wingers who don't move the dial. By the way, I don't think anyone's disrespected Son, have they? I don't. 70 goals, 10 assists in the Premier League at 31. No, listen, Philly. I don't think anyone's disrespecting Son. I think that the issue with Son that we need to remember, I'll check that out in a second, mate. I think what we need to remember with Son is he's getting older. And that's not me having a dig. That's age. We can't fight age. That's
he's
nature.
Past his best.
And he is past his best. Yeah, he is.
But he's not out. I mean, for me, Son was never a world-class player, and I'll fight it all day long. For me, he did not have what it needed to be a world-class player overall. But
yeah, I agree.
What he could do, he was world-class at it. But for me, a player has got to be world-class. He's not just got to be good at one thing. Son is losing his pace, and Son is one of those players that relies so heavy on his pace, just like Salah, just like other players have done in years, like Michael Owen. And when they start losing their pace, you start losing that player because they've really got nothing else to offer. Right. Can Son pass a good ball? Maybe 6 yards. But can he put a good direct ball or a good ball over like Maddison? Can he help? Can he cross a ball? Not come love nor money. His corners, when he was taking them, was absolutely shocking. I don't even know why he was doing it. Yeah, why he even attempted a free kick a couple of times. I don't know. We all know what he was best at. And that's age. That's life. Deal with it. And when someone like Son starts losing his pace, you lose the player. Yeah. Where someone like Harry Kane or Teddy Sheringham, you find, always keep their place for a lot longer because they don't rely on their pace.
Yeah.
Players that purely rely on pace, they die off usually a lot quicker than the ones who are slower. Mm-hmm. That's how
I agree. Daniela, look, just to say, when you say our fan base pushed Conte out, look, I think again, the point has been missed. I think the point was that under Conte, we didn't buy the tools for a Conte formation. Under Postecoglou, it's almost like we've gone and bought the tools for Conte's system now that Conte's gone. It just feels all very backwards. Like we've gone to a back four, but bought 2 wing backs, not full backs. We've gone to a back four that relies on a holding midfielder. We didn't buy a holding midfielder. We didn't buy a proper centre forward. It just all felt, look, it's the history of Spurs, Daniela. And by the way, when you say our fan base pushed Conte out, I think you could see for a long time Antonio Conte was not happy here and didn't want to be here. And I think there was a huge, there was a reason. We said this for years, Dan. There's a reason why Conte only signed an 18-month contract. Yeah, there was no long-term plan with Conte. He signed a short-term contract. I think it worked for both parties, but I don't want to go over old ground.
And he got us into, and the last bit I'll make on it is he got us into fourth place and only conceded 3 less goals with Sanchez, Dyer, and Longley.
Right. And that was one of the big things for me about last year. Now, this comes back to what you were saying just now, Dan, about not getting fourth place because we were too stubborn. And I agree. Look, I think outside of the top 3, I think it's all a little bit hit and miss with the teams. I don't think anyone stands out. We know that Chelsea are going through this 2-year transition period, whatever they're doing. We know Man United are a mess, but are trying to address that now with Sir Jim Ratcliffe coming in. And if they get players like Branthwaite, Ugarte, Xerxes, look like 3 very good signings. But I thought it was there for us to get fourth. I think Villa are a good team, but the reason why I think it was there for us is Villa went so deep into the Conference League. Like they played something like, was it 16 games in that tournament? Something like.
Did they get to the quarters or semis?
Semis. They got to the semis, right? So the thing for me was it was there for the taking. But the difference is in the games, you would see an experienced manager in the top league, such as Unai Emery, float from a back 3 to a back 4 to 2 wide men to 2 forwards. Emery will try things, right? You notice that with him. Ange didn't. Ange kept the same thing no matter how many teams were scoring goals. And there's 2 sides to that. There's the side, Dan, that says, brilliant, keep doing that, and one day it will work. Or there's the side that says, what are we doing here? Surely we've got to counteract what the opposition are doing. But I agree with you. We should have got fourth. We should have got fourth because Villa were in the Conference League. Just my opinion. Just my opinion.
All day long, we should have really, because like I said, Villa were nothing special. They had some very good players, but their team itself as a whole wasn't great. They had better players than us in certain positions. We had better players than them in certain positions. And there was, out of, how many games did we lose? 10, 11? And then the draws we got? I reckon out of those 10 games, if he would have just adapted in certain points or made the right subs at the right time, like he did a couple of times, so I don't just slate the man, I reckon we could have easily got another 10, 12 points out of those games. And that would have easily had us in fourth place, if not even fighting for third place.
And do you know the worry with it, Dan? I've just brought up the table from last year. It's, for me, I always said we were going to finish 5th. I thought we'd finish 5th or 6th. So the league position for me was not really the relevant thing. The worrying thing for me is it was just how far away we were. Like when you look at it, it was, Arsenal lost 5 games all season. City lost 3. Liverpool lost 4. Right, so between them, they lost 12 games. Spurs lost 12 games on their own. Right? Now, some of those defeats, again, 2 defeats to Wolves. Listen, Wolves are a decent team. Shouldn't be getting 2 wins against Tottenham Hotspur. Right, shouldn't. Just really, really shouldn't. Things like that. So that, for me, is why when I see people now say things like, next season, like this is the big one I get, right? This is the big one I get all the time, Dan. And I'd love to hear your opinion on this, right? I get loads of people that come into whatever I say in my chat. Like even when I did a piece about James Maddison, where I went into real detail about everything, right? I get people coming back saying something completely that is no relevance. What I'm getting a lot of at the moment is, you don't know Ange. You don't know Ange. In Ange's 2nd year is when his teams really kick on and win things. Now, my go back to that has always been, Dan, and please hear me out on this. My go back has always been, fine, that's great, but before, Ange's getting 2nd season has always been in the Japanese league.
The Australian.
Or Scottish League or Australia. Now, no offence to the Scottish League, but he's already got the best team in the league in Celtic. All right, he might have improved. prove them in year 2. But how much do you really have to improve a team that wins the league every year?
The league is ranked lower than the American league, for God's sake.
Right. There's a huge difference between saying, I'm so bored of hearing this. And look, I'm not saying all Aussies before everyone thinks I hate Australian fans. It just feels like every time people bite back at me, I can tell straight away if they're Australian and they're purely following Ange or they actually understand Tottenham Hotspur, right? Because I'm saying to these people, cool. So you're telling me now, Savva, you don't know Ange Postecoglou. Watch what he does in year 2. He's going to win things. This is what he does. My question back to them is, okay, cool. So Tottenham Hotspur have finished 25 points off the title, 23 points off Arsenal, right? Tell me, what's he doing in year 2 to bridge? This isn't a little gap, Dan. That's a bloody huge gap. You tell me, what's he doing to bridge almost a 9-game swing? 25 points is what? That's 9 games. That's 9 wins. Mm-hmm. What's he doing that I don't understand because I'm just an English person? What's he doing?
For me, it's more what he didn't do. He did some good things, no two ways about it. But for me, it's what he didn't do that screwed it for himself. Apart from shooting himself in the foot and then might as well have done it in the back of the head with the amount of talking he done it to himself. When you're getting told halfway through the season that this zonal marking ain't working and we're starting to get a very poor record on set pieces, and then it starts looking even worse. And then all of a sudden, we're joint 3rd in the Premiership with the worst set piece record. And then it's also at the point where we can all see it, everyone else all sees it, but then you've got the ones who stick by it. Okay, each their own. Everyone gets turned on by their own football. Fair enough. But we saw it. And he turned around and said, I know, but that's like, you know, he might as well have just said, we got bigger fish to fry. When that was blatantly an issue. When he could see that Vicario, great keeper, but everyone's got their weak points. The teams found his weak point. Did Ange do anything to cover his weak point? Now, if that was me as a manager, not that the manager should even have to do this, by the way, yeah? I mean, I've played football enough over my life and that I would have been backing my goalkeeper no matter what the manager said, yeah? But we had a game. The one game that really got me was the Arsenal game where Ben White's standing there basically touching him up. Literally, touching him up.
Yeah.
And there's all he's doing, get off me, get off me. No one's backing him up. Why is not the manager screaming, sort him, do something, help him? He's been seeing it happening for the past 10 games, but nothing got done. And then all of a sudden, with 2 games left to go, or was it 3 games left to go, he then changes from zonal marking to man-to-man marking.
Yeah.
You stick the zonal players on each post or one of the posts, and then man mark the rest.
Yeah.
Now, if he would have done that a lot earlier, we'd have conceded a lot less goals, because we did concede a lot of goals through set pieces, and he conceded us a lot of points because of it. And to me, it just shows, again, is a manager naive? Is he actually not that clued up at it? Does he only know his plan A? I'm getting very similarities to Gareth Southgate when I think of Ange. Because, okay, 2 different types of play. They both only seem to know one type of play. You've got to have a plan B. You've got to be able to adapt. This is the Premiership. It is the biggest league in the world for a reason. And that reason is that if you don't get it right on your day, Norwich City can come out and beat you 3-0. Okay, he adapted nothing. He had a whole season to mess about with things, and he didn't. He could see Basuma. It was not working after them 10 games. Because the first 10 games, he didn't actually tell Basuma to come so deep. He wanted him going forward with Maddison. And then he changed that bit. And then when it ain't working for 15 games after that, and he's still doing it,
yeah,
there's something
it was just the same every game. Look,
when Maddison has to come back, is it because Maddison is told to, or has he had to do what Harry Kane does to get the ball, except for a different reason? Why? Because he's in his number 10. And then he's got another number 10 next to him, inverted wing back, another one next to him within 6 yards of him, another player running up behind him within 6 yards with him, and the striker's 6 yards in front of him. What do you want him to do with the bloody ball? That is
look,
down to the manager and tactics.
listen, I think this has sparked a lot of people saying it again. A lot of people get very defensive over this manager, and I always find it a bit strange. People get offended over a manager or a player as though it's their relative or something. It's very strange. Look, I'm not knocking the Scottish League. A lot of people go, "Oh my God, Scotland, he won a treble." I would fully expect him to, with the squad that he had and for how poor that league is. Look, everyone knows I'm not massively enamoured with Postecoglou. I was a very big fan of giving him a chance. And for me, what I saw in the back half of that season, it wasn't that we lost games, Dan, like you said. It wasn't that we didn't get Champions League. I wasn't expecting it. For me, it was just how I watched him sit there game after game after game after game, doing the same thing, not trying to counter a single team we played against, watching Arsenal score 3.5, Liverpool score 4.5. Watch it, it just felt like, mate, you're just sitting and watching and not doing anything. It was Bukayo Saka, not countering Bukayo Saka, chucking Van de Ven out to the left to counter him. Then how did their first goal come about? Yeah, or their second goal, Bukayo Saka on the break because we left him alone. It was Mo Salah. He then puts Emerson Royal out there. Put Dragusin in centre mid and get Van de Ven marking him, right? Look, I'm not
Don't
here
get
to
one of the bloody youth team players who plays in that position and he'd have got less stick.
But I'm
Chicken
not here
Royale over on the left back to go against Salah.
Hang on. I'm not here to knock the Scottish League. I'm not here to knock Ange. I'm just looking at it and I'm asking the question from the point of, from like this comment, when we say he needs to have his system take shape, but this board he'll never be allowed to. But the problem is this: he's already had 10 signings that he says are all signed off by him. I'm hearing Werner's not right for his system. This player's not right for his system. That player's not right. Why has he signed them all? If they're all not right for his system, why have we bought them all? Equally, when Unai Emery went into Aston Villa, he didn't need a whole season to get his tactics working. In that season, when he joined them in October, and between November and May, they were the third best team in the league or the second best team in the league for points. So
Crystal Palace, what happened with them?
Look at the new guy, Crystal Palace. So for me, I've said this a million times. The worrying thing for me isn't where we finished in the league. I expected to finish 5th or 6th. Yeah, it isn't that we didn't win a cup. I didn't think we were going to win a cup. For me, it was more the case of it went like that throughout the season rather than slowly getting better, right? All of this, he needs time with the players. He didn't have a full pre-season. But all this nonsense, right?
Always.
Do you know, Dan, this is the first time in 20 years, Dan, that the Tottenham players didn't have any Europe, right? Mm-hmm. Or was it 18 or 19 seasons? So this is the first time where Monday to Friday, the players are on the training ground with the manager all day, every day, right? There's no flying to Slovenia and Slovakia for all these games. They're on the training pitch every week. And what we saw the system get worse and worse and worse. We saw the players get worse and worse and worse throughout the season rather than better and better and better as they got to know his system. So why are we not allowed to critique Ange? Why is it if you critique Ange, people take it so personally? What is like... I've got nothing personal against him. He seems like a great guy. I'd love to go for dinner with him. I just think he's in over his head. I just don't think he knows what he's doing. My opinion.
You can only judge on how someone portrays you. And for the way he did that season, fine. It's all good sitting there saying he got 5th place. Well done. And do you know what? The annoying thing is he could have actually got 4th place. But there's also another reason why we got that 5th place. And that was because the 4 other teams behind us were so crap. Be real about it, yeah? But okay, credit is just like England. We've been that crap, but we're into the next round. So let's just totally forget that we were crap and see how we go on. All right, I get that. But my attitude is, right, there's a problem. How do you fix a problem? Well, before you fix that problem, you've got to see that there's a problem there. You've got to acknowledge that problem. And then you go and find out how to fix the problem. But when you either don't see the problem or you ignore the problem, like he blatantly did with the zonal marking, the problem isn't going to fix itself. When the problem is that we're so far high up the pitch that literally, I'd say 9 out of 10 games, you could predict, and if only you could bet on it, how the other team was going to score. One of three ways: either direct or long ball over the left, over the right, or straight through the middle. Mm-hmm. Every time, because the wing backs are up inverted, they come down on the right hand side. What's Van der Ven got to do? He's got to come over to carry him. Romero's got to come over to cover him. We're now so wide open there. We might as well have pulled our trousers down and pants down at the same time and said, "Give it what you got." And they did. 9 times out of 10, every bloody game. Or it was on the set piece. Did you see it against Arsenal? The set pieces. We're all zonal marking. There was one Arsenal player there. The camera goes to the back. All the others are standing 12 yards nearly out of the box. Once the ball's kicked, they run into the box. So now the players there who were zonal marking is like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And are you telling me he did not acknowledge this until the second last game of the season? And I'm now meant to sit here and say, well, shut up, he done it. No, I'm giving the manager credit by saying I expect him to see that sort of thing. Now, if I thought he was just a crap manager and a bang average thing that we shouldn't have here, I'd just sit here and say to Savva, like, well, what do you expect? It was Ange, like, you know, like, he's crap anyway. No, me sitting here going on about this is actually giving him praise that I think he's a good manager and should be making those decisions. But he didn't. And that is why he will get grilled off of me anyway.
Damn right. And again, look, Chris, thank you for putting the comment in. Chris has said acknowledge. Anne just said, if you were listening, we're not good enough yet. But Chris, the problem with this, the problem with if I was listening, of course I've listened. The problem is when your manager says so many things, which one am I to believe? This is the problem.
Contradict themselves.
When you've got a manager that talks and talks and talks and talks and contradicts himself, which one am I meant to listen to, Chris? Is it the manager that said last year, why not believe that we can win the title? Is it the manager that turned around and said, I don't like top four, we want to win things? Is it the manager that turned around and said, I need better forwards at this football club, then re-signs Timo Werner? Is it the manager? Do you know what I mean? So when you're telling me to listen to sound bites and just listen to him, he's done nothing for me that makes me go, I trust you. And what I mean by that,
Savva,
hang on, sorry, Dan, let me get there, right?
God, sorry.
No, you're right. If Klopp turns around and said something to the Liverpool fans, or Pep turns around and says something to the Man City fans, you turn around and go, yeah, I've seen what you've done. Yeah, I trust you. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, you've got it in the bank. But me just acknowledging that he said we're not good enough yet, then the first thing we do in the summer is go and buy Timo Werner. People can say it's a loan. It's now an 18-month stretch loan.
8.5 million, 1.65 on wages.
Right. That doesn't work for me, Chris. You know what he could have done? If he's turned around and said we're not good enough yet, if the first signing that had come through that door had been an Eze, an Elise, yeah, a Kratchkilia, I don't know, I'm just chucking names out, right? A Nico Williams, I would turn around and go, okay, yeah, you're living up to what you said. But at the moment, what he's doing is telling fans on one hand, we're going to win the title. We're going to go for things. This is what I want to do. And on the other hand, buying crap. It's like me turning around to Dan and saying, Dan, jump in the motor. We're going to Harrods. And instead, Dan goes, where are we? And we're pulling up in Audi's car park, right? That's what we're doing. So when people are saying, just listen to the manager, I've not seen anything he's said or done with the team that makes me think this guy can adapt. And I'm not having a go. There are many managers like this. But why, Dan, my question to you is, why then are there so many that just love this guy? What has he done? What has he done that has made people just go, yeah, oh my God, Ange is superb, and in year 2, he's going to get us winning things? Where's this come from?
I'll answer the question for you. You'll get the pure answer here.
I know. That's why I like it.
I've said it 100 times. I'll say it again. Ange, as a professional football manager, he went into a pretty messed up club. To win over the fan base is usually pretty hard. he had the easiest job a manager ever in football, from when football was in like before Christ or whatever. Yeah, he had the easiest job a manager has ever had. I could have gone and done that job. And anyone can sit here and say to me, yeah, but you're not a manager, this and that. I don't care. I could have done that job. As all I'd have had to do is walk up to them and say, boys, try and play a bit of attacking football, get the ball forward a bit more. And that's all I'd have had to do. That's all he did. Bang, we've done that for 3 games, 90% on the fan base. Ange. Yes, we're playing attacking football. That's what we've wanted. That's how he won the fan base over. Fair play to him doing it. It wasn't a hard job. It was the easiest job a manager has ever had in football. And where so many supporters were so used to this slow, stale Conte Mourinho way, they were just desperate to see an attacking way. Whereas if you would actually look in Conte's style and Mourinho's style with the players we got now, you'd be seeing a lot faster football, because counter-attacking football is pretty much as fast as it gets. But they didn't have the players to do it, so it looked even 10 times worse. Now, Ange's got players to play, or well, he wants to play his way, but they keep saying, but he plays attacking football. He plays positive. No, he don't. He plays just like Southgate with England. He even went on national TV the other day and done 2 of the most stupid things, again, I've seen a manager do. The first one was when he went on there and said, I love the way they're playing the youth players. You need to do this in teams. You need to play youth players. Yeah. Gave our youth players about 5 minutes combined on the bloody pitch. How am I meant to take that man serious? And then on the other point, with England, he stands there and starts saying, right, England needs to do this. England needs to do this. No, but hang on a minute, Ange. That's what England are already doing, mate. And that's what Spurs do. And what comes from it. And
look, I find,
like, mate, it's annoying.
I find the whole thing funny. And by the way, look, I've just sent Jacob the link, right? Because again, what I can't stand, I'll call him out for it. What I can't stand is, I hate this, because again, what Jacob's just done here is completely not listened to any of the rest of the show. Blaming another manager again for how this club operates, signs players, is hilarious. Jacob, I am Daniel Levy out and have been for 15, 16 years. I don't blame the manager for the way this club operates. If you listen to a single word I just said, this is what I hate. When people like this put comments like this, I'll call him out. If he's got any balls, he'll jump on and defend his point. The point is, I blame the manager for not changing the tactics. That's not on Daniel Levy.
That's not Levy's job.
I blame the manager, when listen, again, the manager came out and said, I'm not making this up. The manager came out and said, tell me if I'm right, everyone in the chat. Dan, tell me if I'm right or wrong. No player gets signed at this football club without my sign-off and approval, right? I didn't say that.
Nope.
I know how this club operates. But the problem is, the manager's put himself in a position now where he's saying that. He's saying, I sign the players. Cool. So if he didn't want Timo Werner, why is he not turned around and gone, no, I don't want Timo on loan, right? Why is he turning around and saying, yeah, I'll take Brennan Johnson? If he doesn't want these players, say no, right? And if he did want them, if he did want them, then this is on him. But what we can't do here, Dan, and this really pisses me off. Comments like this really piss me off, because you know how much I hate Daniel Levy, Dan, right? Mm-hmm. But what people like Jacob don't want you to be allowed to do is they don't want me to be allowed to talk about the owner over here, the manager over here, the players over here. I have to wrap it all into one, apparently. No, I can have my say on the manager, I can have my say on the owners, and I can have my say on the players, right? Jacob, the man you loved, I'll call him out, the man you loved, Conte, you loved him and loved him and loved him and loved him, right? You told me his style was the way. He was the Messiah. He's the way to go forward. Savva, you don't know what you're talking about. This guy, this guy, this guy. Now all of a sudden Ange comes in. This is the Messiah. This is the guy. This is. So you're the one that is hilarious. You're the one that just jumps on whatever manager comes in. They're right. They're right. Because you don't have really any direction. You don't really actually have an opinion. So I'm not trying to create a beef here, but if you're going to jump into my show, not listen, and then start being an idiot, I'm going to call you out for it. I've just messaged you the chat. Come on, tell me where I'm wrong. And sorry that I'm venting, right? But I can't stand this. Just because I call a manager out, right? Just because I call a manager out doesn't mean that I agree with Daniel Levy and the way the club is run. But I wasn't expecting Ange to win anything last year. I'm not expecting Ange to win anything this year. Do you know what I'm expecting from him, Dan? I'm expecting from a manager, right? So, but why make a reply video? People like you, why make a reply video? Come on, face to face, man up, man up. All these people who make videos about other content creators behind their back, man up. I'm here. You've called me out live on my show. I'm telling you, come on and tell me, because you don't listen. Yeah? I am allowed to have an opinion on a manager. I'm allowed to watch the manager make bad decision after bad decision. I'm allowed to watch the manager not try anything different for an entire season. I'm allowed to watch the manager not try and counteract Salah for Liverpool or Saka for Arsenal. I'm allowed to turn around and say that I don't like some of his decisions. I don't think Spurs are in the position they're in general because of Postecoglou. That's ridiculous. Of course I don't. But I just don't rate the manager as much as you, who loves everyone. Everyone who comes through the door you love. That's fine. I'm not knocking you for that. But please don't come on my channel and misquote what I'm saying. Yeah? So if you feel you need to make a video about me, make a video about me. But do you know what? I'm an adult. I'm a grown-up. Jump on the screen and tell me to my face rather than going behind my back and making a video. I've got no problem. Jacob's a lovely guy.
No, Jacob, come on. Me and him had a good chat.
But this is what I mean. Like when you say nothing's changed, what's changed? Tell me what's changed, Jacob. You know what everyone is saying has changed, Dan? It's because for that one season we finished 8th. That one season. We don't normally finish 8th. We normally finish some areas. Right, let's go. Come on then, Jacob. Tell me.
So, sir, you want to talk about my balls or you want to talk about my opinion? What you want to talk about?
Let's do it all. I like talking about balls and opinions. Let's do it.
You brought up my balls, so I just want to know where we're starting at.
Come on, man. Let's just get to the point.
Let's talk about your opening comment where you've laughed at me.
Yeah, where it was hilarious. I was laughing. It was hilarious.
Why?
Because you literally contradict yourself every 10 minutes. That's why.
How? Because
you're blaming Ainge. You're saying, oh, it's Ainge's fault he got Werner. Was it Conte's fault he got Jed Spence? Was it Conte's fault he got Fraser Forster?
Do you know the difference between those signings?
The difference with them is
Dan, can you just hang on? Can you just let Savva talk to me for a sec? Because he's calling me out. He's using my name. He's acting like we got some kind of fucking problem. This is ridiculous.
Jacob, don't come on my show and start swearing, man. Don't come on my show and start swearing. Yeah?
Okay, I'm sorry for the F-bomb, but you actually did very much make me mad by misrepresenting me, misrepresenting the things that I say. I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
I'm showing everyone. You weren't even in the chat. Your first
What about the parts where you said, oh, this is what Jacob thinks. Oh, this is what Jacob feels. You don't know me like that, Savva. You just assume me. You've
just asked a question. You've just asked a question, and then I'm trying to answer it. Right? The same way you've assumed this, right? The difference.
You were literally blaming Ainge when I typed that. That's why I said you're blaming Ainge.
Blaming Ange for what, Jacob? What did I blame Ange for? Context.
The team, specifically, when I wrote that, you were talking about the Timo Werner deal.
Sure. Okay. So why do I blame Ange for the Timo Werner deal? Tell me why.
I couldn't tell you.
Right. So here's the difference, Jacob. This is the difference, right? The difference between you use Jed Spence as an example and I put in Timo Werner. The difference is Antonio Conte came out and said, that's not my signing.
Blatantly.
Antonio Conte came out and said, that's a club signing. Ange Postecoglou came out and said, no signing comes into this football club without.
Was that before or after the extension that we're talking about?
It doesn't
matter. That was before. Because you're referring to Conte saying something after something has happened. Just hang on.
Let me finish. Okay. My point. Right?
Okay.
Sure. But I can only go by what the manager says. Right? And Postecoglou has turned around and said, no player comes through that door without my sign-off. then signs Brennan Johnson, then signs Timo Werner twice. Now, what I heard in January from everybody making excuses for Timo Werner in January was, we just need cover to cover for Son because he's going to the Asian Cup, right? Don't worry, calm down, Savva, it's a 6-month loan. Then the first week, or even before the window's open, Timo Werner's re-signed again. Now, if I'm Ange Postecoglou, I'm not letting that happen. Why would I let that happen if he's not my signing?
He did state it
Again,
at the very
so
start.
the point that I was making again, you're referencing Conte speaking up after something has been done. There's been no Ainge talking about Timo Werner loan extension. And yes, him saying that I've come out and he puts his neck on the line for Brennan Johnson. I blame him every time that I see Brennan Johnson miss a shot. So again, it's not that I love everybody. You have this really good ability of just misrepresenting people and their opinions. And you did this at the beginning of the show. I was listening. You said, oh, I hate when people take you and they put you in this category, and then you did it to yourself, and then you did it to me, and you've done it to other fans. And to me, that's just like a direct contradiction of everything that you just said. So
let's remember who started this, Jacob. You did it, man.
What are you talking about? I'm referring to something before I commented.
Why are you shouting? What's wrong? Why are you shouting?
Because you're lying about me. That's what's wrong.
And you've
I don't like
lied in
liars.
this comment.
You're lying.
But Jacob, you've lied about this comment. I'm
No, I
not blaming.
didn't. You were blaming Ainge for something that the club did, and I found it funny because you did the same thing to Conte.
Jacob, okay, but Jacob, the thing is, let's look at this. Let's look at this sentence that you've put in and break it down. Blaming another manager again for how this club operates. Signs players. I don't blame Ange for how this club operates. I've been Daniel Levy out for 15, 16 years. I don't blame him. I do blame Ange.
Yeah, how's the Levy out thing going, by the way? I've as much Levy out since I've been a Spurs fan because we ain't winning anything, but it ain't changing anything by saying, oh, I'm Levy out, I'm Levy this. Then blaming fans for the club making a signing is also crazy to me. Just because someone holds an opinion doesn't mean they hold the account book.
Right. Do you think Timo Werner was a good
am I
buy?
allowed to finish? Hang on. Am I allowed to finish here?
Sorry.
Hang on. Sorry. I was asked. Right. Let's break this down. Blaming another manager for how the club operates. I don't blame Ange for how the club operates at all. I blame Ange for bringing in certain players. Of course I do. Every manager at some point has to take accountability for the players they bring in. Right? Or, hang on. Let me finish.
Okay.
Or, they walk away or they say it's not right for them or something, blah, blah, blah. Look at the meltdown Conte had. I'm not saying it was wrong. Look at the meltdown Conte had. Spurs don't ever want to do anything, blah, blah, blah. The problem is Ange is getting credit for Van der Ven. Right? Ange, oh my God, look at the signing he made with Van der Ven. Look at the signing he made with Vicario. Cool. Look at the signing he made with Dragusin.
What does that have to do with anything?
But if you let me finish, I'll tell you. If you're going to give the guy credit for those brilliant signings, he has to take it on the chin for the crap signings as well.
And technically, I give credit to the club for Van de Ven, Udogi, Pedro Port. All that stuff is from the club. A manager is not going to watch Empoli in the Serie A. That's a scout's job.
Why?
So
why wouldn't he?
Because he's managing a club full time during the season. How is he going to know what this Empoli goalkeeper is doing day in, day out?
That's not quite how it works at a professional football club, I'm afraid. You don't think...
Okay, so this guy who Monday through Friday is at the training ground at Tottenham Hotspur needs to fly to Italy on the weekend before we play?
No. Hang on.
Okay, do you know what? Hang on a sec.
Hang on. No. Hang on. Sorry, hang on, Dan. I need to have this back and forth. Hang on. Jacob, you do realise that when clubs are signing a player, they're going to put mountains of videos in front of a manager. And the manager's job would be to watch those videos and say, I like this player. I don't like this player. Go and scout him a bit more. Show me this, show me that. I'm not saying he's going to have gone to Empoli 4, 5, 6 times, but that's the role of a scouting team and a manager between them to come up with what works. But this was I apologise if I offended you in any way. But this opening
you did,
comment,
but I'm a grown man. It don't hurt me that much.
Okay,
it does make me mad, but it's okay.
It can make you mad, but your comment, it didn't make me mad, but it's the same thing. Your comment and I blame Ange for how this club operates. I don't blame Ange for how this club operates.
To me, it just looks exactly how you did to Conte last year at this exact time.
Okay, and I blame a lot of things on Conte as well. Managers
It's
are
just
allowed.
from
Hang
my
on.
perspective. Okay.
Managers are allowed to be accountable, Jacob. Yeah?
No, I agree.
Just because I hate the owners, just because I hate them for the overall running of the football club, doesn't mean that there's no accountability on managers. The problem is, within this fan base, the moment you start talking about what a manager's done, everyone loses their mind. Everyone loses their mind. Ange Postecoglou, for some reason, isn't allowed to be critiqued for not changing
I don't
anything.
agree with that. I've had plenty of Australia is the second demographic that tunes into my channel. I have plenty of Australians that disagree with the way that Ainge does things and the different things, and I disagree with them too. And I've defended Ainge to Australians, so I think it's really weird when you say you don't like being lumped into a group, but then you lump everyone into a group. That's my point. And again, to go back to this comment that we were starting all this about, when I'm saying that you're blaming another manager again for how this club operates, again, I go back to like you're.
That's not what I did.
Are you gonna let me talk, or I said sorry and I stopped talking when you were talking, didn't I? I said sorry. I apologized, and I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Jacob,
that's what I said when you interrupted. Okay,
Jacob, you said you hate liars, and you've lied.
I do hate liars, and you lied on me and my name, and I hate that shit. Yes.
Don't blame Ange for the way this club operates. That's not true. I don't blame Ange for the way the football club operates.
But you blame him for Timo Werner extending on a 12-month loan deal.
Yes, because if we've had the player for 6 months, and
so when the window's, sorry, go ahead, finish your point.
And Ange didn't want him. If Ange didn't want him, he turns around to the club and says, "I don't need him again for 8 million in wages a year. I don't need him." But he didn't. He said, "If you
don't know what he said. You're talking like you're in the room. You're talking like you're a fly on the wall. I heard Ainge say to the management that this and this. That's assumptions, which is again you also said in the beginning of the show. I don't like it when channels make these broad assumptions about bids and then we're talking.
Jacob, if you shut up, you'll hear what he said. He said.
So the guy interrupted me, wants me to shut up. Got it. Cool.
Because Jacob, when you continually lie, yes, he said publicly about Timo Werner. Yeah, he said that he's leaving it to the scouts to get involved and he's happy for him to come back. He's been quoted as saying he's leaving that. Remember when he was asked, Dan? He was asked, what's happening with Timo Werner? I'm leaving that to them. I'm happy for this guy to come back to the club. So I do blame him for that, Jacob. Yes. The problem is this man talks a lot. He puts a lot of sound bites out there, Jacob. And then when fans pick up on those sound bites, fans get annoyed. Oh, he didn't say that, but he did. It's out there. He said it. The same way he goes on ITV the other night talking about, it's exciting to play youngsters. And I think managers should give youngsters a chance whilst not doing it himself. He doesn't help himself. There's a lot of sound bites from him, Jacob. So I don't blame him for the way this club operates. I put that solely on Daniel Levy. I do blame him for tactical stuff. And I do blame him for bringing in players like Timo Werner twice.
So in order for Ainge to get some credit, he has to what? Say, I quit because you signed Timo Werner on a 12-month loan? What is the barometer here? Because Conte comes out and says, I don't like this signing. You still blame him for it. He says, he has a whole blow up and gets sacked. Again,
I didn't blame him for that.
Oh my God, dude.
When did I blame Conte for Jed Spence? Again, that's another lie.
Bro, it's probably one of those videos on this channel. I would have to look it up, but I am a grown man with responsibility, so I don't have time to go through all your hours of footage. But you have said it. I tuned into Football Heritage. I tuned in when it was Savva Talks Football, Savva Talks Spurs. I've listened. I've been around you. Like, people know this. Just like everything changes. 12 months later, it'll probably be, the same thing with the new manager because we got this one sacked. And again, that's why I said I find it hilarious when this club has been an utter failure for 20 some odd years and a manager comes in and tries to change it. We get over $1 million off of our books. And then you still saying, Ainge is at fault because Werner on a 12-month loan deal. When even if he's making $165,000 a week, which we don't know, that's our assumption because it is a restructured deal. It is a restructured that we're paying, excuse me, I misspoke, that we're paying the entirety of the 165. That is not confirmed yet. That hasn't come out yet, the wage split, because we also talked him down from the original release clause fee, because it was 17.5 and now it's like 8 or 9 million next summer. So the deal got restructured. So that lends me to believe that there is a possibility that the wage could be split with RB Leipzig. And even if it's not, bro, Perisic was making more than that last year. He did nothing for us. And Dombele's been making that for more than 5 years. He did nothing for us. So again, blaming him for a 12-month loan deal for a dude who's literally just going to go out there and run as a warm body, I'm not happy about it when I hear Timo Werner signing for Spurs again. Like, that doesn't fill me with joy, but it also doesn't upset me because the window. But I don't blame. I'm literally saying that, like, it is not that big of a deal, and everyone uses it, not just you, but a lot of Spurs fans use it as a crutch to. Okay, again, if I'm really just trying to get my thought out here, if we get a loan deal on a player who was already here before the window opens, to me, that's not like the end of the world because the window hadn't even opened, so we couldn't have even officially signed anyone. I do agree with the sense that we need to be more proactive and have these things done before the window even opens. I agree with all that. But again, like, I just find it very, very weird and funny in like a ha-ha way when people blame Ainge for a Timo Werner 12-month loan extension because... Bro, have you ever been the manager of a company and there's shit you sign off that it's like, okay, yeah, that's fine. It's not what I'm actually targeting for, so we're going to still do more. But again, it relies on the company to write that off. It's not just on the manager, it's on the owner.
Whose fault is Werner then?
I would assume the conglomerate of the board, whoever signs the checks. Whoever says yes at the end of the day, not sign off, not nod my head along to it while traffic passes.
Sure, but Ange came out before the deal was signed and has publicly said he's happy for him to return. So if he's saying he's happy for him to return...
This goes back to the other thing that we talked about at the end of the season. Like, do you expect this guy to come on and be like, oh, yeah, F Timo Werner, man, that guy's a joke? He's not going to publicly say something like that. He would keep it pretty neutral, which is what it sounded like to me.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So as a football fan, with my opinion, I'm not allowed to sit here and go, I hate that the manager signed that player.
You're allowed to, bro, your opinion, you're allowed to say whatever you want. I've never said that. I just said I found it funny because it seemed like Ainge is getting blamed again for this Werner thing when I've seen this club do it for every manager we got. Jose Mourinho wants players. He gets X, Y, and Z players instead of A, B, and C.
Right.
It's just
I agree with you.
Rinse and repeat, and then we keep blaming the same person.
Jacob, I agree with you on that. But again, as I stated at the beginning, the difference is he's the only manager that has come out when asked about signings and publicly said no player comes in this door that I don't want. Now, Jacob, if he hadn't have said that, I'm sitting here right now going, cool, you know what? This is all Levy. Yep. The manager, the moment he opened his mouth and said that, dug himself a hole, Jacob. The moment he shot himself in the foot. That's my point. So I hate Levy. I hate the way this football club is run. That doesn't mean I just have to think that Ange is wonderful, that Ange is brilliant. For me, tactically, very poor. For me, I think he's tactically very poor.
That's your opinion. I've never said all that. Just like I have my opinion, I enjoy his tactics. Sure. I don't think he's tactically naive. I like the style of play that we had. Okay. If we can get back to that with better players, I think it's successful.
We conceded 61 goals. How's that?
That's because our forwards are. That's because of our forwards, and we can get into that conversation if you want. But I blame that on the teams in the final third. When we do that horseshoe Hotspur, we turn the ball over, get caught out in possession. That leads to most of those goals, or the set pieces, like Dan said. Those are two clear problems. If you finish those chances. Newcastle, for example, 6 minutes, 30 seconds. Timo Werner tries to volley it. Wide open, he could have shot it. He could have corralled the cross. He could have passed it to Son in the box, who was also wide open. But instead of doing that, he went for the volley and tried to score. And then what did they do 2 minutes later? They went down and scored 1-0. My point is, every game there's instances like that in the first 5-10 minutes where we create a chance, but our forwards are so bad at putting the ball in the back of the net that we see the team take advantage of that opportunity like a team should. Sure, that's not because our defense is bad. If we did what the tactics were setting up to do, we would have finished that with a goal.
The problem is, if that happens a couple of games or a couple of times, you go, that's not on the manager, right? If that happens a few times, you go, oh, they've just been caught out. When it happens every single week, then you have to start looking at, right, what are we doing to counter this? Right? If you know If you know, for example, Spurs don't have a defensive midfielder that can sit in front of the back four, right? Don't put your fullbacks up into attacking midfield, right? Keep them in your own half. If you know your forwards aren't great at finishing, don't have everybody bombing forward and leaving a huge gap and only 2 men at the back. It's things like that. Listen, I don't blame Ange for everything. Tactically, I think, though, the fact that he had the caliber of defenders he had and still conceded as many goals as the year before when we had Davinson Sanchez, Dyer, and Longley.
And a defensive setup that is specifically set up to defend against goals. This is not the same. Again, it's like apples to oranges. Why are we comparing Conte with a shitty defense to this one that has good defenders, but the defense is still bad?
But when
no, but the defense isn't bad now. The defense isn't bad. The problem is...
you just 61 goals conceded would say bad defense, right?
No.
That's what
is the thing,
it was
Jacob.
bad tactics.
Bad tactics. Listen, there are clubs worse than us that didn't concede anywhere near the amount of goals we did because they were set up...
Because they didn't go for it.
Hang on, but Jacob...
Do I want to watch England versus Italy, or do I want to watch an actual football match?
But Jacob... You're making out like every game we went out to attack and went for teams. There were loads of games where we had 70% possession and like one shot on goal.
Because of the clinicalness in the final third, like I said before.
And hang on, let me finish. No, listen to what I've just said. There were games where we had like one shot on goal. That's not clinicalness. That's not creating. There were games, especially...
So Ainge just told him not to shoot? What are we talking about? How's the tactics getting them into a position to do that where we have the ball and they don't shoot? That's not on Ainge.
You're not listening.
I'm listening. Stop belittling me. I'm listening to you. I have you loud and clear in my ear, bro.
You're not. Listen to what I'm saying, right? We keep blaming the forwards, the same forwards that he signed. He signed those forwards, right? He signed Werner. He signed Johnson. He signed off on Kulusevski. He signed Solomon. 4 of those forwards are his, right? Yes, we're not.
I don't see it that way. I can see why you would see it that way. I don't see those 4 players as his, though.
Okay. None of those players are his. Okay.
I see one of them. I see Brennan Johnson. I agree with the Brennan Johnson, but the other ones I don't.
So Brennan Johnson, then let's use that. Brennan Johnson's the guy with the biggest number of misses in the Premier League. So if you're telling me that was Ange's signing, when we're not clinical, surely you have to say, well, hang on, the manager wanted him. Like the manager wanted him. My point is this. There's no way that Tottenham team with that level of footballers should have conceded 60-plus goals. That is not down to the forwards only.
Okay, so let's go back to Brennan Johnson.
Hang on, let me finish.
Okay.
That is not... Jacob, managers are there to negate their opponents.
So again, if Brennan Johnson, I agree, he's bad and he's so awful and the tactics are so bad, but he got more GA than some other wingers in better teams and better wingers in better teams. The tactics obviously are good enough to make an average player like Brennan Johnson get GA, like Timo Werner. That's why he got 4 goals and 4 GA in 4 games, is because it's very simple. The tactics make it very easy. Timo Werner, in his first 4 games, he had 2 goals, 2 assists. That was a stat. And I remember being like, how is this possible? Because of the tactics. That's my point. Okay, the tactics build us up and get us into a point where all you got to do, tap it into the back post. So these average wingers like Brennan Johnson can do it. But again, Brennan Johnson is not good. I agree. He is too expensive. But
if those tactics concede 61 goals, Jacob, surely you admit that they are naive. No one should be letting in 61 goals who finishes 5th in the league. That's terrible.
I don't think it's naive to believe in your philosophy, and I hope that the players who's supposed to be instilling that philosophy can actually do it. That's what he's doing. Again, it's like,
do you not see?
Savva, can I get a point here?
Yeah. 1 second. After this, I promise I'll come to you down 1 second. But can you not see, Jacob? So many fans sat there, fans of other clubs, fans of our club sat there and said, you know how to get a Spurs? Do you know how to get a Spurs? They leave 2 at the back every time. Just go down the channels because Porro and Dogi are so far inverted in midfield, there's spaces. You go back and watch nearly all of the goals we concede, right? It's the same way. Now, if the fans of the other clubs can see it, if a lot of us could see it, how is that not naive? There's no way that we can just turn around and say, we go for it. That's why we conceded 61 goals. 61 goals, that's awful.
Again, if you're the one doing the punching, you put your opponent on the back foot. It's a simple philosophy.
But
It's
he
really
didn't, did he? But he
did.
didn't.
He does. And the players' inefficiency in the final third is what was our downfall again.
So nothing to do with the fullbacks playing in midfield. Nothing to do with no one covering the back four. Nothing to do with that. It's all blamed on the forwards.
Well, if we have all the ball and we're building up all this play and we're working in the final third and we just do the horseshoe over and over, that's a lack of creativity and a lack of decision making on the players, not the tactics. That's my point.
I don't understand. Nearly every other fan base laughs at it. It's like you can see it. You can see before a game, right? Like we said with the Arsenal game. I remember before that Arsenal game, whoever I was talking to, and I said, you know, at some point Spurs will just leave Saka completely on his own out wide, and he'll get the ball and cut in and score. And how they scored their second goal, it's like it's so obvious.
Yeah,
the
Brentford,
problem is
same thing.
no matter how much of the football you have, no matter how much of the football you have, look at Man City. Man City have more of the football than anyone else. No matter how much of the football you have, if you play everybody in the other team's half and leave two centre backs back on their own, you are going to concede a shed load of goals. That is tactical naivety.
Well, the thing is, if those
and if Arsenal
tactics,
were doing that, we'd laugh. We'd laugh, Jacob. Anyone else conceding that amount of goals, we laugh. But because it's us, we go, oh, no, it's brilliant. We're going for it. I don't think we went for it in loads of games. I thought we were really poor going forward in a lot of games. I'm not sure what people were seeing. It was tactically naive. 60.
Yeah, I mean, that's your opinion. You're allowed it. I just disagree.
Okay, that's fine. Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
I want to get my bit in there, yeah? Me and you, Jacob, we spoke on the show, whatever. I actually like a few of the points you make, and I disagree with others, yeah? That's the whole fun of football. But on this one, this manager is tactically naive, 100%, and I'll prove it. When you concede goals, when a team goes and concedes 80 games in the season, yeah, they've got a bad defence. But usually they're conceding goals from all angles because their defence is that crap.
Agreed.
When you can look at a team and me, you, Savva, and everybody on here can put a bet on it that the same goal goes in 9.9 out of 10 games from either down the wing, cut into the middle, down the other wing, cut into the middle, or straight over the top, and Van der Ven can't get to it, and in the bang of the net. Right, there's an issue with the tactics there. Right, if Ange is this good manager, like I say he is, because he should have seen stuff like this. If I thought Ange was just a crap manager, I would say, don't worry, mate, it's just Ange, he's crap. Right, when I'm sitting there after 15 games stating, and we're all armchairs at the end of the day, yeah? And I'm stating, zonal marking, mate, it ain't working, fix up. And then we're 20 games into the season, and we are then ranked the third worst in the Premiership of conceding goals through set pieces. And it gets brought up to Ange, and he says this. Oh, yeah, I know that. It's something I'll sort out later.
Yeah, I'm not worried. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, right. Let me go on.
And then didn't concede another set piece goal the rest of the season. I was pissed about it too. His response to it, I told you that, Dan. It did piss me off. But again, didn't concede a goal. So,
let me finish. Right. And then it's obviously not working up there with the number 10. Why? Because the number 10 is having to come back into the middle because he's so boxed in by the bloody wing backs that shouldn't even be there, the striker in front of him and the midfielder coming behind him, that he's standing there and he's got about 6 foot either side of him and nowhere to go. These two wing backs that we play inverted, it is the biggest waste of two wing backs I have ever seen in football. Now, he's got his way. I understand that. I appreciate that. He's got his way. But I have not got to agree with his way. I've not got to respect his way. Same as I haven't got to respect anything or anyone says. As all I've got to do is get it and be willing to get someone's point. Now, his tactics for me, well, he is never, ever going to win a big league. Ever. Why? Because over 38 games, these tactics would not work with the best defence on the planet. Agreed. You go put Maldini, Nesta, Stam, Cafu, Didier in goal. Best defence I've personally ever seen. Someone name a better. Go put them in there. They're still conceding 50 goals. His play is too open to win a league. Can he win us a cup though? Yes, he can. These tactics can win a cup. But When you want to be big balls on the pitch and then stand there and say, right, play with an attitude of you score 3, we score 4, and we can't even do that. You've then got to adapt to your system. Right, I want my players to play this way, but it's not working. So I've got to adapt my system to the players I've got, and then over due time, get the players I want to start playing my way. By the end of when you play poker, I don't know if you do. Some just play poker. I play it with tactics, but you can only play with the cards you got. And as all he did all season, I can name about 5 separate players that he played them in their position, but played them totally to the wrong sync, which screwed the players up, screwed half the club up. And by the end of the season, the players couldn't even be bothered anymore because it looked like he'd lost the dressing room. And then when he's standing on the side, doing nothing, absolutely nothing. Maybe that's his way of assessing the game. I don't know. Everyone's different. Yeah.
Can I say, Dan?
And he made
I don't mind it.
Last bit.
Go on, mate.
And then he made some good decisions in some games, which won us the game. But if you want to weigh them up, it's in a 10-2 basis, because I can name 2 games that he made some significant changes that won us the game. But then I remember other games where we went 3-0 down and he thought, oh, hang on a minute. Maybe it ain't working, even though we got the same goal against us twice and another goal. Maybe I'll make my change now. Well, sorry, mate. Pull your finger out your ass. You're meant to be a professional manager. Get your act together. And then on the next game, the same thing's happening. He goes and makes the subs. We go and win the game. I think, yes, he's got the idea. And then in the game after that, he waits until we're 3-0 down before he makes the subs again. He blatantly said on TV, one of our biggest problems is we aren't clinical enough. We need to get better up front. We need to get better goal scorers, basically. And then he goes and signs Timo Werner. Now, I think we all know that Ange isn't the one who has to say. Let's all be realistic here. Yeah, we all know it's down to Levy. But when my manager blatantly stands there, who I'm meant to trust as the manager of my football club I support, not business club, blatantly stands there and says, these players, all of them, my call. Right. So if they're not his call and they're Levy's calls, what is he then? Is he a liar? Is he just to keep the fan base happy? Or is he just another Ange yes man then?
Look, just Jacob, just before you react to that, look, first of all, everyone in the chat, please keep it nice. First and foremost, Jacob and I get heated with each other, but I think he'll agree with me because we are WhatsApping in the background that Jacob and I actually get on. Yeah, we get heated and we disagree on stuff.
We're both love. Scorpios, born in the early November.
Exactly. It's
how
all
it
love.
goes.
So it doesn't need to be abusing me or abusing him. Depending on who you like, it's fine. Please, can we stop banning people because they might have said something remotely mean? Yeah, let's only ban people in the chat if they're really going at it full hog. Please don't abuse people. Look, Jacob, but just before you come back to that, I think Dan, let me sit on the middle for 1 second. I like what Ange is about in theory. I do. I like what he's about in theory. I just feel like for me, and I don't know if this will change, but it just feels to me that it's too much that way, holding the ball. A lot of possession for possession's sake, but it's too much that way. It's too much everybody invert, everybody high up. What I would like to see, only personally, is, first of all, don't invert both your fullbacks. You're going to leave your 2 at the back. You're going to get murdered. Like, look at Man City.
The way you can get away with. One of them you can get away with and then use a back 3.
Yes. And this is the thing for me. And Jacob, I'd love to hear your point on this, right? And of course, it's true, right? Is if you look at the best team in the world at keeping the possession and playing football high up, it is Man City, right? They are, whatever we want to say, they're the best team in the world at having the ball, moving it, keeping it. But Man City are susceptible to counterattacks, right? The difference is Man City have Rodri, who will sit there and hold and breaks things up. But equally, they only ever have one of their fullbacks. So I'm just going to, let's say Walker starts right back, Ake starts left back, just for example. It could be anyone. Only one of them goes. So that when they've not got the ball, that back 2 now turns into a 3. The problem with what Ange did with lesser players was he turned us from a back 4 into a back 2 with no holding midfielder. So what you had was, and I've seen there's been loads of analysis done on this by like 4-4-2 and these people, You look down the channels, there is just acres and acres of grass where the moment our move breaks down, clubs are away. We saw teams like Luton do it to us with lesser players, right? Clubs like Luton did it to us. Clubs like Bournemouth, they just kept getting it to their wide players, getting in behind. That, for me, was a worry. Hopefully, Jacob, that's something he tweaks. I just don't think he's going to. I want to be proven wrong, but I just don't think he's going to.
Okay.
Yeah,
We're going to go for another 10 minutes max, by the way. Another 10 minutes max.
Yeah,
So
again, I just see it like if we had actually signed those forwards that you, me, Henry, Sean, we all were calling for back in the day. Give me a sec. If we had signed these clinical forwards, someone who could actually finish, and it wasn't just Son up there. Again, I had problems with Son last year, and you know me, I'm one of Son's biggest defenders. But him and passing it too much when I felt like he should have had the shot was a little bit to me like maybe the captaincy armband's weighing too much on him, and he's trying to involve too many people. I don't like when our best finisher passes it to Højbjerg and he has a crack at it. I don't like it when our best finisher passes it to Brennan Johnson, Timo Werner, and they have a crack at it rather than him. But I said this many times in the first season, which was I would rather have a consistency to philosophy in a manager's first season than an adaptability to circumstance. Because, again, like you say, and I agree with you, the benchmark in the Premier League is what? Man City. And what do? Oodles of ball. All right, check. Score goals. Not check. Sometimes not check. But they have guys who will pick the ball up and take a crack at it inside, outside the box. It doesn't matter. We are too rigid, I believe, in our tactics in the final third. We're trying to walk the ball into the back of the net when you really just need to set it up and have a crack. And we scored more goals often than not, it seemed like, on the counter in the latter parts of the season. Because the more we had the ball, it seemed like the more time we had to make a mistake. And when we make those mistakes with, like you said, those the fullbacks pushing so high up, it does leave you. And then even Romero joining in, it's basically one man lying back there with Vicario. So to me, I do believe that there could be some flexibility in the sense of maybe having another person or two out there to help. But if you have these forwards and they can actually score, if Harry Kane was in that team and it wasn't Richarlison and Son and Brennan Johnson up top, and it was Son, Kane, and I guess let's just start Brennan Johnson because that is Ainge's guy. We would have been a lot more clinical and we would have conceded a lot less as a byproduct of being clinical. And if we all agree here, the fact that we haven't even gotten Eze in is abysmal. As a release clause, you could pay it and bypass Crystal Palace completely. We won't do that. We'll offer them a down payment. And I agree, that's abysmal, and I hate that. I hate working that way. But it's just, again, it goes back to...
Let's find the middle ground, Jacob. I think listen, as always, and what I've learned over my YouTube years is it starts there, one person's there, and then we can slowly move in the middle and kind of groove each other. I agree with you. We've got to become more clinical. We have, which is why now we've got to see players come in that are not, which is why I didn't want Timo Werner, right? We've got to be more clinical. I still feel, though, that even if we were clinical up top, I still feel that we give away so many chances in a game, that we are so open at the back, that it's just not sustainable over a 38-game season. Now, this is where my worry is, Jacob. Last year, they were doing this system once a week or once every 10 days, depending on internationals. My concern is this year they're going to have to do it Thursday, Sunday. Hopefully, we go further in league and cup games as well. Legs start to go. Legs start to get more tired. For me, I just think he's trying to be too Pep-like and gone way too far with it. I like what he's trying to do. I just think there needs to be tweaks that you turn around and say, right, we can't all be gung-ho.
I agree. I agree with you.
We need some stability there. And like Romero and Van der Ven, they're way too good as centre-halves to be conceding 61 goals in a season. Right? Mm-hmm. But Porro and Udogie, for me, and this is where I do agree with Dan's point, Porro and Udogie, for me, are not fullbacks. This is a worry for me. They are not fullbacks. For me, they are wingbacks. And
out and out.
I think if you're going to play that system, if we're going to try and be like I know we're not trying to be City per se, but just for that way, I think what you've got to do is play one of them And then the other fullback on the other side needs to be more of a Nathan Ake type, someone who can play centre half and fullback. Oh, almost what I would do is go Porro and have him as your guy that goes and inverts, and then Dragusin, Romero, and then Van der Ven, your left-sided player. If we want to do that, Van der Ven, your left-sided player that goes over and covers and can come in and cover. I just think leaving Van der Ven and Romero that open every game, people can say it's exciting to watch. I don't find it exciting seeing us get exposed. We were getting exposed more than when we had crap defenders. So that's my only thing.
Yeah.
That's where I worry.
I do agree with you.
How predictable
Because
did we become as well? We became the most predictable team in the Premiership. That literally after those first 10 games, we got worked out big time. And it was just the same goals over and over again. Right, manager, pull your finger out, adapt, do something. If it wasn't for him being so set in his ways, we would have had that fourth place. Not that it meant anything to him, and then he had a complete tantrum over it. And then after another game, blamed it all on the fans, which done him no favours. Angie's biggest problem was he needs to keep his mouth shut. Because he contradicts himself too
why
much.
are you upset about this dude? It's his job to speak to the media before and after games.
Yeah, but
and then you're mad at him for speaking to the media.
You don't have to say. He did not have to stand there and say.
I mean, this to me is
himself.
just picking apart the chicken noodle soup. Like, you don't want this many carrots, you don't want this many celery. I get it, but at the same time, like, you got to eat the chicken noodle soup at some point, and that's what it is.
He's done himself any favors saying it.
Yeah, I agreed with everything he said along the way. I blame the fans as well. A bunch of losers in that fucking stadium. Sorry, a bunch of losers in that stadium asking for us to lose. City till July. Those fans can't be upset about transfer activity until July 1st, as far as I'm concerned. Because if it's not July, you're City till July. Worry about what Manchester City are doing. But again, speaking, he has to speak. And yes, he's probably the victim of his own honesty. I agree. But that doesn't mean that I think he's anything less as a manager because he says dumb stuff in a press conference. Pochettino said stuff I didn't agree with in a press conference. Conte, Jose, they all said stuff that I didn't agree with in the press conference. But that doesn't mean that I want to he got European football. We didn't have that last year, Dan.
Listen, I want to end the show in 3 or 4 minutes. I agree with both of you. Listen, it is part of a manager's job. He's got to be out there. He's got to be talking. I think the difficulty for me that I found with him last year is he was very, 1 minute it was, why can't we win the league? Dream, go and win the league. Then it was...
He was just saying, I'm not trying to tell fans how to celebrate.
No, I know, but this is the problem. When you say so many things, people start to get, well, hang on, what is his stance? You know, when he's saying, I need better forwards. Now, we can argue that did he want Werner all day or not, right? Forget that. Whoever brought in Werner, you've got the manager saying, next year I want a challenge, right? I need better forwards than what we've had. And then the club bring in Werner. Straight away, you look and you go, okay, well, the manager's saying this. The club's doing this. Then you've got him blaming fans when it wasn't all fans. I didn't once say, I hope we lose to Arsenal. I was in the City. I was in the camp, Jacob, of I don't really think it mattered whether we wanted to beat Man City or not. I just thought they'd beat us, right? I don't agree with people coming out and saying, we've got to lose this. But for me, I just think he needs to, again, like what he, like, I know it's petty, but what he did the other night on ITV, straight away, the moment he said that about the youth players, every Spurs fan I know was going, hang on, mate, hang on. You're a hypocrite because last year when we had loads of injuries, you're the one manager in the league that didn't give any of these kids a chance. And you're sitting on national TV going, it's great to see the kids get a go. And if they're good enough, they're ready. And so I don't hate Ange, by the way. I don't hate
my
him.
opinion on that, the him saying stuff on ITV, first of all, I think every human acts a little differently when the lights are bright, the cameras are on, and the mics are hot, in my opinion. Secondly, I want to say that, like, he did integrate youth into the squad, but I'm going to chalk it up to the same thing I was told when I was saying, why isn't Jose giving these kids a chance? He's saying all these things about Dane Scarlett. Well, let me see him. And then they do get the chance and they look bad. Dane Scarlett played. He looked bad. Valise played. He didn't look good. He got a goal versus Brighton, I think it was. But, like, these kids, they got bench opportunities. Some saw the pitch, maybe not as soon as we would have liked. Sure, I wanted to see maybe more Jamie Donley. But again, this guy's in his first year instilling a philosophy. And to me, I see it like, how can he, on one hand, say this message to the first team, and then on the second hand, be like, all right, well, that same message of if you work hard in training and you show that you understand the tactics, that's why Højbjerg and Skip are getting chances, because they're tryhards. They go and practice, they brown like every manager. Like,
Sure.
so he was rewarding that by to me, that was upholding his word by rewarding those who
Sure,
have
but at
been
the
there,
same time,
putting in that
Jacob,
work, whether they were good enough or not. But my point is, like, with the youth, to hinge your first year success on a child is a dangerous move. And that's what they said about Jose Mourinho when he was here.
True. But at the same time, look, we can talk about the youth thing all day long, but at the same time, bigger clubs than us that were going for titles and winning trophies would put youth players in if they had injured. Liverpool had a crisis at right back and got Conor Bradley straight in there, right? This is the difference. Wolves had a game where they had two 18-year-olds, one in midfield. I can't remember names, but one in midfield, one up front. And it was just when we had that injury crisis at the back, and you're thinking, all right, go on, give Phillips a go, or bring a left back or a right back in from the youth team and give them 90 minutes. He didn't. What he did was went to tried and tested players that have failed and that are probably leaving the club. But look, guys, I actually have a work call with somebody in LA in 10 minutes, actually. So I do need to jump. Look, guys, listen, I think it's healthy. I think it's healthy to debate. I think it's okay to say you don't like a manager or you do like a manager. By the way, I'm in the camp of I don't dislike the manager. I just want to see something different this year. I just want to stop being told he's going to do different things this year, and I need him to see it. People in the chat, be kind. Jacob's taking his time to come on. Me and him debated, we rowed, we shouted at each other. When this is finished, we'll WhatsApp each other.
Sorry for the F-bombs.
No,
Sorry.
mate, you're cool. My bad. Mate, you're cool. You're cool. Everyone's been so tight. There's been no super chats anyway. But listen, Dan, thank you for coming on, bro. Listen, I really appreciate it. It's good to have it's nice to have a chat where it's not all one-sided. It really is. Jacob, thanks for jumping on, my man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
And listen, you know where you can find these guys. Somebody in the chat, please be so kind. Whack in the Hotspur Hoods link. Whack in the United Spurs of America. And listen, I'll leave this as always. There are going to be YouTubers that hate me, right? There are going to be YouTubers that hate each other. But you know what? Go and subscribe to all of them. Go and get a different view. Too many to mention, but just because I might not agree with someone doesn't mean you subscribe. Find out what their point is. Look at the other side of the coin. I think it's really, really important to do that rather than just having the one channel you like and thinking everyone else is horrible. Big up to you all. Please smash the like button. Thank you to those that have subscribed throughout this show. If you could subscribe when you're out, that'd be great. Jacob, much love. Dan, much love. As always, take care. And I've just missed, get that fraud Southgate out my nation. Love that. Has become a channel member. So big up to you. Thank you so much. And Mark Cook has said, great debate, lads, who's another channel member. So much love.
Big up, Mark.
Really enjoyed that. I'll have you both on again soon. Hopefully I'll come back on your channels as well. Take care. See you later. And as always, come on, you Spurs. I've forgotten how to do these things these days. Come on, you Spurs. And I've forgotten again. Here we go.